call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Early?
Here.
Trustee Strack?
Present.
Trustee Morris?
Here.
Trustee Doherty?
Here.
Trustee Ott?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lochner?
Here.
And Mayor Mahoney's absent.
And I'll just remind everyone to make sure your mics are on. We are attempting to live stream tonight, so we'll see how it goes. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented with the addition of a presentation by Crestone preceding the executive session.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strack?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Affirmative.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lochner?
Yes, and the motion carries. First up is audience business. Generally, the board will not take action on any questions or comments we receive tonight, but we are interested in hearing them, and we will give staff direction to respond to them at the next meeting if appropriate. So the first person I have on the list is John Riker.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I live in Farms. I've never been here before, 437 Zantee Way. And I'll be very quick about my business here. What I am here about is to request to get on the agenda for a presentation about a request for a variance for a fence. I understand that I need to present 9 pages of a document. I believe those go to the members of the trustees. I believe.
Yeah, I'm looking for direction from our legal counsel
Yeah.
here.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but actually,
John Ricker, R-I-C-K-E-R.
Mr. Ricker, this isn't the correct body for a variance. It would be the Board of Adjustment.
Well, this.
Which is, and we would need to, but we would need to set that as a public hearing that requires advance notice and posting. So the first thing you need to do if you want that variance is to have a meeting with town staff, and they can go
I
through.
did that 4 months ago, ma'am. It's process
pending
of
application.
report for the variance application.
Oh, okay. So we have a variance application pending, which just hasn't been scheduled, but it needs to be scheduled before a publicly noticed meeting where everybody in the public would have an opportunity to come in and either in support or opposition to your application. And so you can't present evidence of that in advance to the Board of Trustees, so they won't be able to take your documentation tonight or hear your arguments, if you will, for your fence this evening. We'll need to schedule that at a certain date, and you'll have to post your property in advance of that hearing date.
And how would I proceed with that? Would I talk to somebody somewhere?
We asked Mr. Ricker to talk to Monica about setting up.
You'll be if you talk to town staff, they'll set up a meeting with the town planning consultant to set you up for a Board of Adjustment hearing.
But I would suggest, may I make a statement that I did that 4 months ago, and I'm here to present to the board a request that this proceed.
I understand, but there's a process in the code to give everybody in the public an equal opportunity as you have to make sure, because what you're asking for is that the zoning code not be applied to your property for a certain reason. And so you have the right to make that request, but the law requires that we give due process and notice of that hearing to others that may be affected by that variance, including property owners that surround you, that kind of thing. So you'll be required to post your property, and we'll have to publish notice of that public hearing to give everybody an opportunity to come forward before this body, who will be sitting as the Board of Adjustment, in order to argue, whatever they want to let the board know. And the board will then, at that hearing, take evidence from anybody who wants to present it, and out of fairness, make their decision then. But they can't do it tonight on the fly.
I guess I'll have to recover my papers here.
Yeah.
If you want to share your number with the town's contract planner, he's actually sitting there in the second row, and he can make an arrangement with you.
Okay, you're the contract planner, as your name is?
Ross Culbertson.
Ross Culbertson.
Can I have you two step outside real quickly? Thanks. Next on the list is Brian Riemann. Brian? Okay. And Chief Gabrielson.
Good evening, members of the town board. Ken Gabrielson, Hudson Fire. I gave, first of all, I need to apologize that I haven't been, this is the first meeting I've been to this year. It's just been, there's been a lot of things going on both at the district and then privately. So I brought tonight the end of the year report from the Hudson Fire Protection District. You can look at that when you're, for some real exciting reading. And then I'll give you my monthly report to you. We ended the year with the most calls the district has ever run. It's just proof of the development that's going on here in Weld County, particularly in both the towns of Hudson and Loch Buoy. We surpassed last year's call load by over 100 runs. This year we're on track to even better that. So it's not that anything is, it's just more people are moving into the area. We've got automatic aid agreements with almost everybody surrounding us, so when they call for help, we come and assist them. All of our, we had our 2018 budget. We've purchased all our large ticket items. You'll see that there's a newer tender in service here in Loch Buoy. We've placed an order for a new brush truck that we should get. The problem with that is a year turnaround time from the time we place the order. So we're not looking to take delivery from that for that until December. Our plan is to next year purchase another brush truck so that we'll have 2 brand new brush trucks. And then at that time I'll be able to reassess and see what our need is for pumpers. We've issued a second set of bunker gear for all your career firefighter, which is a safety issue, and it's something that was a long time coming, but it'll allow them to have a change in personal protective gear if they get one soiled or contaminated. So that's a good thing. And then I've been selected to sit on a focus group for the state of Colorado regarding wildland responses. Obviously, our wildland responses are becoming more and more frequent. For those of you that follow the news, California had one of the most brutal years they've had in history with wildland fires. We're hoping that we can better our service here to the citizens, not only in Loch Buoy and Hudson, but the state, with developing a program that will launch equipment a lot faster than what's happening now. With that, I will entertain any questions that anybody may have.
Any questions from the board? We have one from legal counsel.
I don't necessarily have a question, but I do note that the agenda later, at the end of the agenda, we have a discussion item on fire sprinklers in residential structures, and the chief was going to present some information on that, but then Ms. Byrne, who's unfortunately ill, was going to also present you some information, so I didn't know how you wanted to handle that. Okay. I didn't know if you realized you were on the agenda at the end.
No, that's good to know, then I'll
Yeah.
stick around.
I think I'll kind of tentatively say at this point, we'll probably move it to a different meeting that Sam's here, especially because then you don't have to sit around for 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Is everyone on the board okay with that? Yeah. Yeah, okay. We'll move that to next meeting.
Okay.
Next meeting.
Next meeting is my board of directors meeting, so the first meeting of the month is the one that works the best for me.
First one in April, Steve, is that one?
April 3rd is our first meeting.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
Okay,
Thank you, Chief.
all right.
And next on the public comment list was Nancy Shaw.
I didn't know I was signing up to talk.
You don't have to if you don't want.
I'm just,
Yes,
Really?
state your name and address first.
my name is Nancy Schott. I'm at 16969 County Road 4. I got a letter through the mail about Crestone Resources putting 15,
Yeah, and I'm actually going to stop you, and I'll say right now, for anyone that's here to talk about that, that public hearing is actually going to be delayed to our next meeting, which is March 20th. So we can't hear any testimony or take any comment on that tonight, for the same reason that was explained to Mr. Riker.
Okay.
It's a public hearing, and we can only hear testimony regarding that application at that meeting.
so how do I get information on this? I mean, I'm concerned because it's right on our fence line,
Yeah.
and we have horses and stuff.
And they will be presenting their side of the case that same night, March 20th,
Okay,
and then you'll have an opportunity to respond with any comments you might have.
okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Yep. And that looks like all of our public comments signed up. Was there anyone who didn't get a chance to sign up that would like to speak? Okay. So next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have, for the benefit of the audience, I'll read the items on the consent agenda. Tonight is the payment approval report in the amount of $297,558.49 and the February 20th, 2018 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Aye.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strack?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
Yes, and the motion carried. And next on the agenda was the added item, the Crestone presentation. And as I understand it, this is just general information.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and trustees. My name is Jason Oates. I'm the Director of External Affairs for Crestone Peak Resources. I'm joined tonight by three of my colleagues. Megan Campbell, our regulatory analyst. She's doing the technical planning and the permitting with your town staff. Ashley Campbell, who's with our government affairs group, she'll be your main point of contact for members of the boards of trustees. And also Jill Durancy with Jost Energy Law. Jill and her firm represent Crestone on regulatory matters with the COGCC and with other local governments. Just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to briefly introduce Crestone. Crestone is one of the top oil and gas producers here in the DJ Basin. It formed in July of 2016 when Encana sold their DJ assets to the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board, or CPPIB. Crestone has about 165 employees with proud Colorado roots, with over 100 of those employees that work in our field office and transitioned from Encana. So we have a vast amount of operational experience with our operations. Crestone operates in some of the most challenging suburban areas along the Front Range. And with these challenges comes experience and knowledge on how to address many of the issues towns like the town of Lac Bowie have concerns about, like noise, odor, truck traffic, air quality, and water quality. We are committed to operate within compliance with all the regulations all the time, and we're willing to work with the town on addressing issues that may go above and beyond required by the rules when we can. With that, I'd love to show you a short video highlighting some mitigation measures we've employed in our operations in Erie, and open it up to ask any questions during the remaining of my time. The DJ Basin is one of the premier oil and gas fields in the country. Crestone looked at that and said, you know, here's an opportunity for us to go and showcase how we operate, environmentally friendly, safe, and efficient. You know, we live here. We live in Colorado, and we have children and families here too. So we're not gonna do anything that's gonna jeopardize that through the way we operate. We've got to be good neighbors and just conscious of our surroundings and the people we operate around. We started with the higher sound walls, so we have 40-foot sound walls. We take the noise piece very seriously. We've set up a system of monitoring where we monitor for noise. We then take the data and analyze it and make the incremental adjustments we need to make. One of the funny things about odor is it's difficult to measure. So we had the odor consultant come in from Canada who does olfactory science. They break it down to the chemical compounds, and then they can measure those compounds or monitor for those compounds.
We're using what's called olfactometry. What we're trying to figure out is what are all the possible odor sources here, what are the impact on the community, and this will really help us in optimizing the boil rig and how we operate it to mitigate the odor impact. You're looking at probably our biggest mitigation measure here
with the hub. All these tanks are connected by pipeline to all of our locations in and around Erie. We've been able to take 200 trucks a day off the roads. Now we've been able to go tankless in areas that we're developing around this location. You know, mitigations are important because it reduces our impacts. You know, the water quality, the air quality, the general footprint we operate in, all are important to us. Without a doubt, what we're doing in Colorado is leading edge as far as how we're doing it. We do a world-class job here. So that's just a highlight of some of the things we do to address concerns. So with that, I would open it up to any questions you have.
So I will open it up to the board. I'll start down with Trustee Ott. Just a reminder, we can't discuss anything about the pending application, but if you have general questions or anything like that, feel free to raise them at this time.
I'll wait till the hearing.
Okay. Trustee Doherty?
Oh, nothing, thank you.
Sure.
Trustee Morris?
The sound wall is 40 feet high,
Yes, sir.
and I guess any further in-depth questions will have to wait.
Okay.
But thank you.
Sure.
Trustee Stratt?
Please stop me if I get out of line.
Oh, that's what Marine's here for.
There you go. I noticed recently you guys were doing some capping operations, and in the bulletin that you sent out to all of us trustees, said that you were really conscious of environmental emissions. That to me really doesn't just mean black smoke coming off of one of your rigs. It means the noise, it means the lights, et cetera, et cetera. Recently, you guys performed an operation, and I can't believe for the life of me that you didn't put up a sound wall. I mean, what's your reason for that? I mean, let me just put it this without asking you that. In our land use code and in our municipal code, which is easy reading for an attorney, there are 9 different places that say that that's supposed to be done. It doesn't really say much about light pollution, which is kind of off the subject. I don't know why you guys can't figure that out. I mean, you can take a light and you can lift it as high as you want in the air and shine it down, and it'll work just as good as one that's way up in the air and shining out into nowhere. I mean, with all the engineers you guys got, are you kidding me? I mean, golly. Also, I see in our code, it mentions electric motors. You know, I don't know that I don't really know how that works exactly, because you probably have to have diesel generators to run the electric motors to some extent.
Correct.
You know, and I did notice that it seems like at night, it's really hard to see any diesel, gas, or anything coming off at nighttime. And it really did seem to me like you really amp up your operations at night, you know, and maybe, I don't know if that's to use the cover of darkness or not. Now, on the other side, I will say that you guys moved in efficiently. I mean, I was really kind of impressed, you know, at the way you guys, you know, set up the thing, worked and were gone, cleaned up your mess, et cetera, et cetera. But I can't for the life of me believe you'd make a simple mistake like that. So.
Understood, and we apologize. Definitely we'll get better. It was an oversight by that part of our operation that we won't let it happen again, and we will lead with the mitigation measures we show in that video without going into more detail, but we will take care of those things. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Trustee Early?
Nothing, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, and I would just kind of, I'm going to reserve my questions about the pending application, but I live next door to Trustee Strzok, and our entire street heard about it when your capping operation came in, and it was, I mean, I know we received a bit of notice about it, but nothing to the extent of what was showing up in our backyard and in a lot of our citizens' backyard overnight. So I just, in the future, you know, if your application gets approved or whatever, hopefully we do see some.
Yeah, that's not the way we want to introduce ourselves, and I do apologize. One of the reasons we're here and we're working very closely with the town is to ask for a second chance, and we appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you. And if anyone has no other questions, we'll say thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the executive session pursuant to Colorado, I don't have any of the language, Maureen.
It's in the agenda.
Did this all we have to read? Do we have to do that?
No, you can just read
Okay. Yeah. So next on the agenda is the executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-402, parens 4, parens B, to meet with Town Council and Oil and Gas Development Council to ask legal questions regarding the pending special use permit for oil and gas development. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gordon?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strah?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Osborne?
Yes, and the motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step out into our conference room back here. I know on here it says that this is going to be 20 minutes. We're hoping it's going to be substantially shorter than that, but I can't make any promises. But the benefit of our new facility is you don't have to go outside now, so feel free to hang out in here.
Unless you want to.
Yeah, unless you want to.
Stepped
I'm gonna, email to Maureen and she's gonna bring it up. Just sent that to her. Yeah. I can, it won't be a big screen, but it'll be a screen. Sure.
So, nice to meet you. So, my name's Jordan House. I belong to St. George's Mike. In fact, all it is
Mike Moore.
Mike Moore. Mike had approached I have access to every plan road for the new market, you know, for the spread. Yeah. And they're not small pads, there's a 24 road pad just to the west. There's a 9 road pad to the south. Oh, yeah, when they put those big, the masts in them. Pretty sure? Well, there's safety reasons for those lights too. Because there's a guy that runs up and down, and he doesn't have the lights all the way up. I mean, he's right, you could put a big light at the top. I mean, yeah, it's just, but, so every time they switch out Casey, there's a guy that runs up and he's harnessed in, and he's got to move the pipes and he goes back down. Because that wasn't. You said when they were, see, you said when the top producers in the business. What the that is 500. They just go to Berlin Road equivalent, so it's MCF, so you gas, about that's plus the board. Yeah. There's only 2 teams. My mom used to watch that show. That's not what people do. That was fun. I'm gonna do the video.
The studs in the living room is 20 inches. It's 2 foot studs. That means there's 2 feet just extended. That's it. That time, they can happen, they start it's timber. I mean, 2 feet is that really? You know what, my, so my father-in-law, he came to town last week, and he parked in their house, and we have a pool in there, enjoy. Not an elevator, get on the door, it's leaks. Somebody reported that RV was out there. For HOA rules, you know, like, it's only 2 hours, so we could park up in there. But it was in an hour, we were there, recently. Shut up. I would leave it there for 72 hours. My 3-year-old, me and Rachel, my wife's Rachel, we were upstairs, and we looked outside, and my son Max went on his underwear. I know, like, because we were afraid somebody called the police, like, they just wanted to go to the police. That sounds healthy, huh? It's supposed to, no, it's supposed to be big. It's supposed to be. Oh, yeah. But it, not all strategy, not all of them. Yeah. So, yes, I'm thinking about going in 6 months ago. Anytime one of us comes up, it's like, people freak out. You're one way or the other, you know? It's almost like talking about religion. It's so strong. This is the way it is. Careful one. That'll be one of the questions before it happens. So, the 10th grade. Oh, well, thanks for coming. It's kind of a good feeling. I get it a lot too. Everybody in my house hurts. So because of that show, a lot of people watch that. So now they're like, it's not very fun. Every person. And once we, they already go to questions. I wish that's how I think they go. Yeah, that's what they, they own. Yeah, people's walls. It's amazing. Speaking of houses, we took our kids to a little kids museum outside of Lafayette. Yeah. Which was Boulder. Yeah. Milwaukee too. And there's a house that had a motor on it, probably 2 stories. 600. Yeah. Dude, Boulder, Boulder is the study for how pressure is. Really, really is the stats. Houses. So when we were, you can go back in time, and I went back to like 2002, and it's like Brighton just exploded. Like it was just, all these 100 home developments just like popped up all over the place. Also when they had the troubles, they had the federal highway, that's right around that time. It was, Virginia time for here, right in those days. So, yeah, I don't want the details. I leave at 6, 5:50. I'm there, and like, I have to be downtown by 7. Oh my gosh. And it's for a drilling meeting. It's literally a 15-minute meeting where everyone just says, this is our day, this is our day. I mean, it could go to 45 minutes if that's a problem. But it's just, it's pointless. Well, I can call them, but they want someone there. Yeah. It's just how they. I work out a long one, so I go the other way. I can go back roads and get there. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I never have traffic there, that's awesome. 270. It's like a traffic, because the way they designed it, it's like a bottleneck. And you have people going this way trying to go that way, and you have people going this way. So right there, you get this chaos of people trying to go right down the road. Is that wrong? Oh, okay, way down there. Yeah.
Because there's like a stop, and then stop, and then like next thing. And then just go. It's a little bit like a short.
Sable is where you go to 120th, and that's at 660.
So I think it should go all out.
But people don't know about that. No, okay. The city of
It's like they're, oh, it's this way. Oh, I got this. And then there's no chance, it's just people slow down.
Well, the city of Morgantown has a place called the Mile Down, and it's like, it's just a thoroughfare, but it's the only way to get in and out of City Hall. There used to be a stoplight right here, so you have people from downtown going that way and this way. And then people coming out of City this way, so you have 3 roads and you go kind of like that. So you put a big roundabout, it still causes traffic jam, because people stop. I was like, people will stop and wait until it's all clear, and then move. Instead of just getting in and going around.
Have you seen it on Branson where Arthur traffic? It is 8 lanes deep. It's like the biggest running up the road.
No, I mean, there's like, people are chicken and stuff.
Nice and easy, just things going.
There's videos of some in Africa. There's those stop signs, those stop signs. Somebody with this couch shows up, and traffic just goes. This is serious. And no one dies, no one crashes. There's an argument that signs actually cause crashes. You're second guessing, you're looking at,
Whereas I just have the pictures of those. Yeah, I think my favorite one was there was a sign, it said sign not in use.
I think the funniest I've ever seen was my wife served in South Africa. And he just had signs and everything. And it's a graphic of the person's. So they have a beach. It's a little.
They're effective. I'll deal with the signs, but.
She should have. On the beach. I served until, now we have to go to the beach because they have a beach party. So I got permission from the fishing company. It was awesome. They roasted a pig. They dumped it in the cemetery. And they roasted a pig. Yeah, oh, man. Hmm. Where? Really? The cost is that Hawaii is the most expensive place to live in the country. It would be more expensive than the cost of living. I was reading about the Cascades today. That is a time bomb. There's a 50-50% chance of those. It's that lava flow, right, where it cracks and just flows along, which was still destructive. Can you imagine? Yeah, I mean, well, the Snake River Valley is all there's lava flow. If they call air collapses, then that's when he's working. So, it's Japanese. It's just, flights, yeah, that's another issue. I guess in 2005, there's an agency which tries to do a trend assessment. Right now, honestly, the highest rate of accident. Oh, no more banquet and boulders. Well, no more lots of cruises. You get some great pictures. That's the title. That's the title way of like wrecks your boat. You're in deep water. Yes, it's like, get into it. Yeah. I don't really know that we want that boat, right? Like, you saw the thing happen also in your boat turning right at it. Does everything in the boat fall right at the top? Wait, what is it? There's a video of the world's largest cruise ship. I forget what it's called. But it hit a storm in Asia. And like, so you think the ship in a storm, so the deck's not very tall. You got the force. I mean, it's like throwing tables, throwing people, throwing tables. I mean, like, I don't know what they're thinking. The newest one, I think, is, I don't know, like, yeah, that's, I think that's the one. It's under construction. Oh, okay. It's the sister ship of that one. Yeah, the next most biggest ship as well. It has 18 stories. 18. So you're trying to sail a 180-foot wall. Yeah. Each story is 10 feet, 10 feet tall, so that's almost 200 feet. That's all this ship. It's the longest water slide in the world. Like over water even. Like you go off of one deck and like throws you out of the ocean and then like sends you back down and stuff. And part of it's clear. It's like a river. They have it's got some of the suites for families. They have a slide between levels. Kids on there roll in. idea. That's all. I just. So that ship, actually, the crew, sorry, passengers alone. Size 230,000 tons of force attachment coming out of
Ironically, Christo left. David, there's Dave. Steve go. Is he also in the restroom?
Should I get him?
I think he probably, I imagine he went to the restroom. Yeah, he's good.
Charlie?
Hey, Monica, can you have somebody check on the power over the next week or so? I've not had power here for the last 2 weeks, or for the last 2 meetings. Well, from here, I don't know where it starts not coming from.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Starts over there.
Well, so, no, it starts here. So I'm not sure. It used to work and it's not now. Thank you.
Steve's back. Dave's in the restroom. Okay. I'm going to resume the meeting at, resume our regular meeting at 8:06 p.m. For the benefit of the audience, we're coming back from an executive session that was to meet with Oil and Gas Council concerning legal questions. If any of the board members at this time have an objection to what occurred at the meeting or have any objection that the scope of the meeting was exceeded, please state your objections now. Hearing none, we will resume our regular meeting at 8:06 p.m. And I will first apologize to the public. Sorry that went way longer than we had hoped. So our action item A is the water court application. Ms. John.
Mr. Stanzione's going to give you a little bit of background on what that was all about, and then I'll follow up with what we're looking for tonight.
Good evening. Charlie Stanzione with Bishop Brogdon Associates, consultants for the town for water resource and water rights matters. I'm just here to give a very brief summary of a water right application that was filed by the town of Castle Rock on Plum Creek. We reviewed the application, which is normal, and worked with the town attorney recommending that instead of filing a statement of opposition, to reach a settlement prior to filing a statement of opposition. We also consulted with the town of Castle Rock's water rights engineer and fully reviewed the application's technical aspects. The application was simple in the sense of it was for conditional water rights, for surface water diversion, storage rights, and exchange rights on Plum Creek. All conditional rights and very, very junior, with an appropriation date of just the end of last year. Having reviewed it and provided a recommendation, we did reach and exchange language back and forth regarding settlement. The main issue for the town was to ensure that the town your Loch Buoy could continue to make deliveries of your Bell Mountain Ranch water resources down Plum Creek, and that those deliveries would not be interfered with by these new water rights. Castle Rock has an existing diversion structure. It can pass flows, both native flows and water delivered to the creek. And any future diversion structures, the way the language in this agreement is worded, will also include the ability to pass flows, both native flows and any deliveries to the stream. So with that in mind, we recommended that the proposed settlement language, which by the way was also included in a previous decree on Plum Creek, that would satisfy the town's ability and ensure the town's ability to make their deliveries. And settlement was reached. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or.
And I just want to add a little bit to that. So normally this is something that Steve Jeffers would handle on behalf of the town. You know, I'm not a water lawyer. But if you recall, Steve Jeffers, one of the partners in his office, was involved in the Castle Rock application and in this application, so they're conflicted out. He did offer that we could, that he provide us with some names of alternate water counsel to assist us in this matter. But with Charlie and Chris feeling comfortable that we were covered from a sort of technical standpoint by ensuring that this language that we put into this pre-settlement agreement would show up in any decree, I felt comfortable going ahead and entering into this pre-settlement agreement. And timing was something of the essence because we really weren't made aware of our right to object and the deadline for objection until like 2 days before the objection. So I had to take some action by either getting counsel and filing an opposition through new counsel or entering into this settlement agreement. So I went ahead and entered into this settlement agreement on behalf of the town. And what I'm looking for tonight is really just a vote of the board ratifying my action in doing so.
Can I just add to another element to the settlement language is that should there be any substantial changes, first of all, the town of Castle Rock will notify us of any of the filing of the final decree or the final draft of the decree, so we'll get a chance to review that to ensure the language is included. If there's any substantial or material change to language, the settlement does allow the town of Loch Buoy to intervene in the case.
Questions, Trustee Doherty?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Ott?
Nothing, long as if they change it significantly, we can object to it, right?
Trustee Morris? Nothing. Trustee Stratt?
I'm kind of wondering, recently got this in the mail from CCWCD, and it states some of the things that they've been doing at Chatfield for years, and for years they've been trying to add 12 feet in depth to that whole thing, and they're really ramping up, starting to do that. And our water actually comes down Plum Creek and goes into Chatfield, and in this article, Castle Rock is declaring that 374 feet of storage in that lake is theirs. And so I'm kind of wondering if that's actually ours, and what we're trying to do is to kind of circumvent anything that they do at Chatfield to make sure that our water continues to flow.
This particular operation is not related to the Chatfield operation. It's a separate operation, separate water right. The storage rights included in this application are actually up near Sedalia. One is an existing reservoir and one is a proposed reservoir. And the diversion structure is in that area near Sedalia on Plum Creek. So it's not related to the Chatfield operations, which include other South Metro water users.
So we'll store water from time to time in these two reservoirs you're talking about?
We will not. The town of Castle Rock will.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're obliged by this agreement to pass our water.
Just keep it
down the stream.
Down the stream. Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Early?
Nothing, thanks.
Yeah, I didn't have any questions about this specific thing. It looks okay to me. I guess I'm curious, so is Steve's firm still representing the other party in this? They just had to conflict off us?
So Steve's firm represents Castle Rock. So as, you know, I think in this case, we're able to deal with the conflict that raises. Steve did send me an email this week, you know, really indicating just his appreciation for working with the town and how important it is for him to keep his relationship with the town. And I think, I don't know how you all feel, but as staff, I think we're really, really comfortable and happy with that relationship. And I think as time goes on, if things like this pop up more and more often where we have an issue because of what Castle Rock is doing, we may need to go out and look for another water attorney, at least to handle our matters as they relate to Castle Rock.
Okay, yeah.
But for now, I think that this conflict issue was solved, so it can be fine.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was headed, because if they're still representing an adverse party, it seems, but, okay. So hearing no other questions or comments, do I have a motion?
I'll move to ratify the actions of the town attorney in approving the agreement not to oppose the application for direct flow water right and storage water rights in several exchanges by Castle Rock on Plum Creek in case number 17CW 3211.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Straw?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fontaine?
Yes, and the motion carries. Action item B, resolution 2018-3, resolution for the waiver of, oh, thank you, sir. Resolution for the waiver of certain fees for the school district. Mr. Stamey.
So you do have a resolution in your packet, 2018-3, which reflects the board discussion with the school district last meeting, or I think it was last meeting ago. And it's a waiver of the water plan investment fee and the sewer collection PIF fee. And then the other fees that the board noted, the interstate exchange fee, the infrastructure fee, the administrative fee, construction water fee, and public safety fee. And that total amount of waived fees is $223,852.
Questions or comments, Trustee Early?
None, thanks.
Trustee Stratt?
Is there anybody here from the school tonight in the audience?
Not, I don't believe tonight. No.
Nobody?
No.
That's kind of too bad.
Well, I will point out they came last week when they first asked for this.
You know, I'm kind of overwhelmed by the generosity of the town's citizens and the local businesses who have stepped up to take the responsibility of financially supporting the RJ3E's effort to build a new school for the Loch Buoy's young people. So that's all.
Trustee Morris?
I have nothing. We discussed this and asked questions, and I think we're just pulling the trigger on it, right? So I'm good to proceed.
Trustee Doherty?
I do have a couple questions. Isn't our water tap fee higher than $154?
That's the language used in our fee ordinance. That's just to make the physical connection. But there's the water tap fee
That's
is the
part of
water,
the TIF?
the water, yes.
Oh, that makes way more sense. I thought we were giving them a really good deal.
No.
Okay, and then, where did we end up with, the fee that we can sort of based on timing but couldn't waive because of where it goes?
That's the sewer, it's the wastewater treatment PIF. Right now, that goes into the wastewater escrow account. That's a three-way agreement with South BB Draw, City of Brighton, and the town of Loch Buoy.
Right. So
We're
that's
working on an amendment to that agreement to allow a different manner of
It still
collecting
wouldn't
those
allow-
funds.
I don't think even if we get that amendment, it would allow you to waive that fee. That fee is always to be collected and always to be utilized for plant capital improvements.
So that's not included on this?
It is not.
Okay, that was all that I had.
Trustee Ott?
Nothing.
Yeah, and I didn't have anything other than just to reemphasize, they were here to answer questions last week. So to the extent the public is concerned that the school is not here, they showed up last week, they answered our questions. This is pretty much a formality at this point. And the other thing I would add is they did also request a waiver of the stormwater collection fee, and that was denied by our friend Bob Limke. So I just wanted to point that out. The generosity of the town is over and above what some other organizations are willing to do. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2018-3, a resolution of the Board of Trustees for the town of Lochbuie authorizing a waiver of certain fees for the Weld County School District RE3J for the purposes of assisting in the construction of a new elementary school within the borders, or within the boundaries of town in an amount not to exceed $223,900.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, roll call, please.
Trustee Irwin?
Yes.
Trustee Strah?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Jordan?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rothwell?
Yes, and the motion carries. Next up is the resolution for 2018-4, for the public hearing on oil and gas development. And I believe the plan is to continue this, is that correct?
We still need to read this into the record. We
Okay.
need to open the public hearing, and then we need to continue this matter on the record to March 20th.
Okay, we will do that then. At this point, I will open the public hearing concerning Resolution 2018-4, a public hearing in consideration of the resolution granting a special use permit for the drilling of 15 horizontal oil and gas wells at approximately 12,000-foot depth into the Niabra and Codell formations at the location east of County Road 4 and Bailey at Southwest 4, Section 25, Township 1N, Range 66W, 6th PM, within the corporate limits of the town of Lochbuie. That public hearing is opened at 8:20 and continued to March 20th. Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah.
Do I have- go.
I move to continue the public hearing of resolution 2018-4 to March 20th meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strah?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yep.
Trustee Jordan?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Irwin?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rothwell?
Yes, and the motion carries. The public hearing is continued to March 20th. And I'm actually going to, as long as the board is okay with it, switch actions items E and D, since D will take significant time and E might be a little quicker, and then we can get our bond counsel out of here. So if you would like to step forward, Mr. Matlos, and do your presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Alan Matlos with George K. Baum and Company. We're here to consider the ordinance authorizing the issuance of the limited tax general obligation bonds. So I was here at the last meeting to talk about the bonds. So in November, the voters approved the bonds, and the ordinance allows for the town to issue those bonds. The plan is, if approved today, we have a schedule where the bond sale is about a month from now. So between now and then, we will be getting the rating on the bonds and getting the market materials out, with a scheduled closing on April 16th. So that means on April 16th, we wire money to the town, and you have that money for the County Road 2 project.
Questions or comments? Trustee Morris.
I did not have anything.
Trustee Strah.
No, I really don't have any comments, other than it's a pretty good bill for the people to pay for the next 20 years. So you start adding it on the calculator, it kind of adds up quite a bit, you know, and when you think right off the bat, it just kind of states simple. It's every person paying about $6,000 a piece, you know, things don't get any worse. But thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. Trustee Early.
Yeah, well, you listed the Board of Trustees. It just says none beside my name.
Yeah, so those are not my documents.
I am
I don't
retired.
prepare anything, I just come to the meetings. So,
Just like it corrected, I'm retired sales manager.
okay, okay. We'll get that, comment back to Don.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
in the preliminary offering
Yeah,
statement, yeah.
thank you.
She could be a Bronco enthusiast.
Anything, you can be anything you want, really, whatever you want to put it there.
None is fine.
Trustee Doherty?
I am almost through scrolling. I don't think I had anything. 1 second.
I'll come back to you, Trustee Ott.
Now, we jumped through hoops to get this done, so let's just get it done.
Anything, Trustee Doherty?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
And I didn't have anything other than one quick question. There were a couple of changes that came through today. They didn't change the numbers or anything like that.
No, so there was one comment that came in about we have this table that shows overlapping debt from other local governments, and I think Brighton 27J, which is a tiny little bit, and RE3J were switched, so that was corrected.
Okay.
And then we added a table at my suggestion to show if 12 mills, that was the ballot question, no more than 12 mills, if 12 mills were levied historically, how much revenue would that generate? Just because investors don't like to do math, so I like to tell them how much money it is, and then they can look at the payment and know there's enough money.
Right.
More than enough to make that calculation. So those are the changes.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have anything else. Excited to get this done and get our project underway. So with that, do I have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 634, an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale by the town of Lockwood, Colorado, of its limited tax general obligation bonds, Series 2018, in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $4,500,000 for the purpose of funding the cost of capital improvements to the town and authorizing, approving, and otherwise providing for various matters relating thereto.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strong?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hopkins?
Yes, and the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
So now we'll go on to, thank you.
Trustee Early, we'll get that fixed. Thank you so much. No problem.
So we'll move on to action item D now, the Blue Lake filing number 2. Several people, looks, are here to speak for that, yeah.
Would you be interested in considering the waste management agreement? We do have a
Sure. I think Blue Lake's gonna take a while, so we're pushing you guys to the back, I think. So waste management, if someone, is that?
Good evening. Thanks for considering our extension for the 5-year contract. We appreciate the business. Sorry, Anthony Howard, Public Sector Solutions Manager, Waste Management. We appreciate you considering this extension of the 5-year contract. I wanted to make myself present here if you had any questions concerning the service in the past, anything we can do better in the future, please let me know.
Questions or comments? I'll start with Trustee Ott.
No.
Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Trustee Morris?
Real quick, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking and comparing, it looks like it's the same contract as the previous 5 years?
Correct, and we just did a 3.4% increase based on CPI, Denver, Boulder, Greeley.
Okay. That percentage increase, is that for all 5 years of the contract?
No, that's for the first year of the extension.
Okay. And then annually, that CPI increase will be applied?
It's normally not the same, so whatever it is, you know, the 12-month average from the anniversary date, I'll send a letter to you folks, and it'll be based on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Trustee Strock?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Early?
Well, I just want to say I appreciate the service, and they come about the same time every week. The cans are always set back up. If something does spill out, the driver gets out and picks it up. I've had comments on that, so I appreciate the great service.
Thank you.
Yeah, and only thing I had is I'm very satisfied with the service. I guess my one concern was, since we did hit the end of our 5-year kind of initial agreement, should we have RFP'd, or I don't know how that works. What would be the normal procedure there?
That's a decision of the Board of Trustees under the state statutes that regulate the ability of local governments to do this sort of trash service with only one selected provider. I don't think that you're required under that, as long as you did do a competitive process at the time you went with them in the first place. There's no time frame on
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
So that's certainly a board decision.
Yeah, I wanted to put that out there for consideration. I know I'm very personally satisfied with your guys' service. Same thing as Trustee Early said, I think it's been exemplary, but I know we've had other board members that have expressed concerns in the past, so maybe as we approach the end of 2018, if those concerns persist, maybe raise them then. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 2018-5. Can it be -5 if there's no -4?
It can be -5, because that's how it's numbered.
Okay. Resolution 2018-5, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lochbuie, Colorado, amending the fee for residential waste collection services and approving an amended restated agreement with Waste Management Colorado, Inc.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, roll call, please.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
No.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strong?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman?
Yes, and the motion carries. Thank you. So yes, now we can go to, thank you for your time. And now we can go to Blue Lake, filing number 2. So I'll start with Mr. Stamey and Mr. On, and you can call up our relevant parties here.
So there are going to be several action items by the board tonight regarding Blue Lake Filing 2. We've worked with the applicant pretty diligently over the last 5 months, 6 months. And so we kind of have a culmination of this work tonight in front of the board. I'd like to first start out with, let me just ask the question. I think the applicant will have a presentation as well. Okay, so Mark, do you want to, are you going to do the presentation? Do you want to do? Okay, yeah, so if you want to just come up and do that and kind of go through your overview, then, okay, and then we'll go through the staff report and the different documents that are in front of the board tonight.
Mark Bush, 905 West 124th Avenue, Westminster, 80304. Mayor Pro Tem trustees, staff, thank you for having us here tonight, and thank you for all the hard work that staff's put into getting our second filing done out there at Blue Lake. Just by way of background, Blue Lake was annexed into the town. Here, actually, I might as well. So just sorry, the type's a little small on this, but our project team. Let me introduce it really quickly. Lochbuie Land is my company that I run. We're the overall project manager for the piece. Justin Siegel's here, who works with me at Concord. All the staff knows him. Charlie Foster from Foster Consulting works with me on the project. We have Wendell Ayers from Paragon Engineering. He's our lead engineer, designer. Paul Shukas with PCS. They're professional land planners and landscape architects. They've worked with us on the project. And then Russ Watterson Jr., who's our counsel as it relates to the project. But I'll just give you a little background here. That's our nice teamwork sign there for our community building. And but really, the applicant, our company, as well as our consultants, have been involved in real estate land development for you there, trustees who aren't familiar with it. We've been working in the area for well over 20 years. We have a combined experience. It's a little embarrassing to say, but we're probably pushing 100 years in land development experience collectively. It keeps getting longer and longer, but I suppose the alternative to that is worse. But just to give you an example, Villages at Buffalo Run, which some of y'all may be aware of, where the golf course is in Commerce City, is a project that we run. There's over 1,000 residents there. The ownership dedicated the land for the golf course. So we've been working in the northeast area here for some time. Hutchinson Corner is a small subdivision that we completed in Louisville. We've also done work with Boulder County Open Space and selling them quite a large land tract in Boulder County, and obviously Bella Vista filing one we're very proud of. And Charlie Foster has been working with Green Valley Ranch for, what, Charlie, 20 years? 20 plus years, and we have a subdivision in Broomfield also called Prospect. So I just put that out to you to let you know that we have a history and experience in larger land development projects. So Blue Lake Filing 2 is the, part of the approved Blue Lake subdivision. It covers the fundamentally that half section of ground there right up Weld County Road 37 on the northern boundary is County Road 6. The south boundary doesn't really exist today in terms of identification, but it's where actually RA3J owns the middle school and high school site on our southern boundary there. We actually co-panned our projects with Altamira when we did our applications back in 2004. As part of our overall master plan, we call it, a lot of people are familiar with it, Bella Vista is really its marketing name. Its approved legal name on our plats and on our PUD is called Blue Lake. So you'll see kind of continual references to Blue Lake through the presentation here. But we received our annexation in 2004, and we received our filing 1 plat in 2005, and started commencing infrastructure and home construction in 2005 with a builder called Trail Ridge Homes. As of today, all of filing 1 is completely built out. There's 380 homeowners within Blue Lake filing number 1. What we're doing now is, in fact, that's our monumentation piece there for Blue Lake number 1. So we brought 380 homeowners into the community, and generally everyone seems pretty happy out there. Tonight we're going to be making a request for the approval of our Blue Lake Filing 2 plat, a second amendment to our annexation and development agreement, a subdivision improvement agreement and water dedication agreement, so it covers the infrastructure that be constructed and kind of the rules of engagement, as well as the water dedication requirements for the property. And then we have a notice of building permit and water tap restriction. I know that Ross is going to cover quite a bit of this in his presentation, but also we've been working with the town management and town consultants for over a year on getting the filing 2 completed. So we're happy to be at this point and looking forward to getting into construction out there. This is the overall PUD map for the project. For some of you, this is old hat. For some of you, this is new stuff. But filing 1, where you see there in the lower right-hand corner, that's where we have our 380 current homeowners and our interests, et cetera. We're proposing to go directly to the north, and we're platting that entire filing 2 area, which will consist of 305 single-family lots, a couple-acre commercial parcel, about an acre park right in the center of it, et cetera. And so what you see to the, what is generally to the west there, or to the left, are future filings that are approved under our overall PUD, which is kind of the governing zoning document, but aren't platted at this juncture, so we've labeled those future filings. You can also see in the bottom there that there's it's a 50% of a dedication that we did with Altamira for a large community elementary school site. That's about a 10-acre site combined with what's been approved with Altamira. It's another 10 acres there, so it's kind of a 20-acre core regional park site right in the center of that, what we'll call that section of land. This is a little summary of filing 2. It's going to consist of 305 single-family lots. We're proposing, and that's what we've worked out with our SIA agreement and staff, phase 1 will consist of 111 units, phase 2, 93, and phase 3, 101. There's also a central park that is right in the middle of the filing. It complies with all the zoning obligations that exist within our PUD, and we've done the monumentation piece and designed a monumentation piece through PCS that kind of matches the monumentation we have on our filing 1 entrance. And we've just, our phase 1 lots are under contract to a builder right now that's, you're familiar with, has already been building out in Bella Vista. So we're excited to have them continue on and work within the community. Actually, what constrains us right now, and not to get overly technical, but we are working to develop additional raw water resources, but we have 117 water certificates that have been approved by the town for the required raw water dedication. So we fundamentally have sized phase 1 to match what water we have available so that every lot will have available water right to it. Plus we have to dedicate 12 water certificates for the landscaping requirements for that filing. This is a conceptual graphic of the entire filing 2. I'll show you a phasing map shortly here, but we have detention pond there in the lower left-hand corner, essentially a central park in the middle there, but gives you a sense for what's going to happen. That's our bulk design standards. I don't think we need to get into that, but that's part of the PUD. But it gives you our front, rear, side setbacks, things of that nature, minimum housing square footages, things of that nature, parking requirements, et cetera. But that's kind of getting really deep in the weeds, but we wanted to, that area that's in the shaded pink is the planning area 3 that corresponds to this area within our PUD document. This is our final plat for filing 2, which kind of obviously the conceptual plan mimics, but that consists of the 300. It's kind of self-explanatory. I'm happy to answer any questions too at the end of this. This is some of our supplemental documents. Our phasing plan right here shows how phase 1 will be constructed. We're going to complete the improvements to Weld County Road 37, the completion to the infrastructure coming into the community. There'll be a monumentation piece in the kind of the central side of the right-hand side there. The phase 1 will include the park, and our builder intends to get started on that as quickly as possible. They said they'd like to have that ready for their grand opening. And weather permitting, it should be done in the fall, or if not, immediately in the spring. But that consists of we're also kind of constructing on the south side here. I'm going to go back here, if you don't mind, for a second, to the conceptual plan. As part of the plan, we are doing a soft surface trail along this area here that will be available for everybody, kind of east-west pedestrian connectivity through the property, and also benefits filing 1. In phasing plan, we also have developed a sidewalk and fencing plan. We've been working with the town. We had a bit of confusion with our fencing standards and filing 1. So the builder is going to obligate itself to build the perimeter fencing for the property. So we're not leaving that up to the homeowners. So that'll be constructed along Weld County Road 37 as well as on the south side of the piece. And when we eventually move up to Weld County Road 6, so the builder will handle all of that. They're also going to be building fencing along the adjacent to the open space parks area. So we'll have a mix of fencing. We like the design of the split rail open fencing along the open space areas. I don't particularly like walling off trail corridors or park areas. So we're not allowing 6-foot high privacy fence along those corridors, but we are allowing it in kind of mid-block areas for homeowners, and that fencing plan is represented. I'm sorry it doesn't play off that well here on the screen, but we've been thinking about a lot of these different things. And these are things that Paul's company developed for us. This is representative of the monument and the entrance that's going to be constructed. It mirrors kind of what's going on the entryway into filing 1. We have these plans put together, and they'll be actually a part of our SIA agreement to be constructed, and they'll be secured by letter of credit financing. This is the representative or conceptual of the community park there in the center of the project. It's pretty self-explanatory. Again, this is more like the playground equipment area. There's a pergola representative of the planning that's going to be completed. Large sod. What I like about this particular park is it has a large sod playing area for kids. It's large enough for kids to play soccer on or throw your football or do different things. I mean, it's not meant for obviously high-level organized sports, but certainly for community activities. I don't know if you're familiar with Bella Vista 1, but we have pocket parks that go through filing 1 throughout the community. We have 3 of them, and we always our concept is that there be a community area or a park kind of within a short walking distance from everybody's house, so no one's like a 20-minute walk or anything like that. But again, this is another picture that was put together by PCS for us that shows, mirrors the landscape design that we have together for the park. Just to give you a sense, the level of depth, I mean, we only had 4 people on our team that we mentioned before, but we've engaged traffic consultants, environmental consultants, geotechnical consultants. We've had an ecological study done on the property. I'm trying to think, we have a laundry list of people that have been involved in the project. Like, for example, our traffic study, we've certified that through our current traffic analysis, that the project meets kind of the same standards that we did in our original traffic study, so the impacts on regional roads, et cetera, are about the same. We've had an environmental complete analysis done on the project. And really, this is a lead-in really for me just to explain that we have a deeper bench than just the 4 people that we put on the original screen. But we have an ecological report. We sent out consultants for looking for endangered species, the Preble jumping mouse, you know, all the things that kind of stop you in your tracks in the middle of development. But we've completed a lot of those reports, or not completed all those reports as a matter of fact. But and that's kind of what we put together as a short presentation. So I'm happy to answer any questions now, or if you'd like me to come back after Ross speaks, that's fine too.
I think we'll have Ross speak and then we'll do questions.
Yeah. I'll try to put it back up there. Try to find one of the better looking pictures for you guys. I put this up. Let's put it there you go. Thank you, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and trustees. My name is Ross Culbertson with RG & Associates, Loch Buoy Consulting Planner. I've had the privilege to work with the applicant and town staff to vet the project through the development review process for a final plat that's presented for you tonight. The staff report that has been presented to you kind of outlines the history that Mr. Bush kind of alluded to with past precedents of original annexation agreements, original PUD standards, and original original improvement agreements agreed to through the annexation process. This is a project for 305 lots with 3 phases, 19 blocks, 7 open space tracts, 1 community park, 1 commercial tract, and 1 signage tract on 70.33 acres. In the process of reviewing this project, it kind of came clear that with the completion of filing number 1 to the south, that the town and developer needed to review some of the process steps in approving the project. The project has been reviewed and vetted under the guiding PUD, Planned Development Standards, approved with the original project. There have been amendments to that that have been codified and presented to you through the resolution and ordinance for a second annexation agreement and the comparative SIA document that goes along with the final plat. And those new improvements are required for the completion of filing number 2. So for your consideration tonight, we kind of ask that you take a motion and review of the second annexation agreement first, which has these modified clauses. For future review of this project for future phases will be the original PUD document, the second annexation agreement, and I think those are the guiding documents moving forward. So we ask that you consider the second amendment, the second annexation agreement first before you consider the Blue Lake final plat, and then take the final plat separately after that. And I can defer to the town attorney to kind of walk through those legal documents of the ordinance and resolution of any details that are pertinent to your decision making.
I think that Ross is correct. I think the first step, the first thing that we need to talk about here is the proposed second amendment to the annexation agreement. And a copy of that second amendment, an updated copy, I believe, was placed on the dais tonight. I'm not sure. No, okay. So a copy of that second amendment is in your packets, along with a copy of Ordinance 633 that approves the second amendment to the annexation agreement. let me tell you just briefly what the major points are in that second amendment that changes the original annexation agreement. So what are the changes to the annexation agreement that make for this second amendment? There's a little bit of housekeeping in there, the definition of the PUD map, what the PUD map was left blank in the original annexation agreement. In the second amendment, that's cleaned up. There is a provision in the second amendment to the annexation agreement that the developer or the owner's obligation to build out Weld County Road 6 on the south side is being amended to allow for what's referred to as an interim street section, which is composed of two 12-foot lanes, along with a 10-foot sidewalk, but without a requirement of curb and gutter, and that would be completed at the time of the development of Phase 3 of Filing 2. So if you recall, that's roughly 100 lots that'll be developed after the 100 lots roughly in Phases 1 and Phase 2, obviously. So in addition to that Weld County Road 6 provision, there is a provision in there that changes, there's several provisions that change the process for getting subdivisions approved. Under the original annexation agreement and the PUD regulations that were really exhibit to that annexation agreement, there was a requirement that subdivision approvals in the future had to go to Planning Commission. When we adopted a new land development code in January of this year, we eliminated that Planning Commission step for other brand new subdivisions that wouldn't necessarily, that might take place in the town. And so we wanted to, because frankly, this PUD, this subdivision, Filing 2 subdivision did not go to Planning Commission. We wanted to give the developer the opportunity to take advantage of that sort of more relaxed process that the town is willing to provide to developers of any other new property in town, and have that be just really a step right to the Board of Trustees. And so we went ahead and added some language in the second amendment that would allow them to process future subdivision applications within Blue Lake without a necessary Planning Commission step. There are provisions in there that recognize that maintenance of the landscaping along the streets, the open spaces, and the parks will be the responsibility of either the district or the association moving forward, and not the town's responsibility. Then there's a provision in here that allows dual use of security. So when they post bonds, if there's some reason that when they enter into a contract to sell property that they need to post some sort of a bond for that, we're allowing for them to utilize that bond for both of those purposes, a single bond. But we do have the opportunity, and they have the requirement to make sure they get town consent first on the form of that. Our goal being that we don't want to hassle with some third party if we ever needed to call on that security to finish some public improvements. So we made sure there was language in there that would protect the town for that. And finally, it updates the schedule of fees. It doesn't necessarily change the fees, it just really updates them. Some of the fees in the original annexation agreement had automatic escalators based on CPI, and we went ahead and figured out what that looks like, what those fees actually come to in the year 2018, and just updated that fee schedule for those, recognizing that those escalators will continue in the future, and further recognizing that you have legislative authority to change fees that are in the future that will be applicable also to this property if they're applicable townwide. And then there was just a couple of other small housekeeping measures. So that is essentially what Ordinance 633 and the Second Amendment to the Annexation Agreement provide, unless I missed something and I'm looking to council for the application.
Can I ask a quick question about that? I'm confused on the County Road 6 modification. Can you explain that again?
So there's a provision, and can you help me with this, Justin or Russ, maybe? There's a provision in the original annexation agreement that requires the owner, the annexor, at the time, to develop County Road 6 and set forth what the standards would be that would look like. And what we've agreed to here is that this, what we call an interim street section that was vetted through our traffic engineers, would really mean that they've met their obligation under that original annexation agreement as long as they build it to the standards that we've approved. The Second Amendment shows you what that section of County Road 6 will look like. And I think it's partly a recognition that this is probably never going to be a major arterial, it's almost all going to be a collector street, and that town engineering, traffic engineering felt comfortable that that section would satisfy the obligations that are otherwise present under the original annexation agreement. But I'm not sure I correctly identified every change to the cross-section of Weld County Road 6.
So it's being built to the new town standard for Collector Street, minus the north lane and missing the curb and gutter. So it's the 10-foot regional sidewalk and the 2 lanes of pavement.
Two lanes of pavement, so only 2 lanes of pavement on the south?
Yeah, so it's be a 3-lane, right? Essentially, 1 in one direction and 2 in the other.
So it's, I think, 1 in each direction and then the center stripe turn lane.
Okay. Okay.
Can I ask you a follow-up question on top of that? So in the language, or in the literature, it talks about the improvements to County Road 6 being when phase 3 reaches a certain point. But phase 3 isn't gonna happen for years down the road. Is this interim road section gonna happen soon? Or is the interim road section gonna happen when those off-site improvements on Road 6 happen?
Probably need Mark to come into the room to
Yeah,
answer
we
these
don't- we need-
questions.
We need Mark back. I would imagine it would be 3 because it doesn't get up to 6 until they do 3. Yeah, because. Phase 3 is the last one.
Phase 3 is within filing 1, though. So filing 1 consists of 3 phases. The first phase is roughly 100 lots. The second phase is roughly 100 lots. And the third phase is roughly 100 lots. I do know that we're going to see immediate construction, I believe, of most, if not all, of the houses within phase 1. I don't know when the anticipated timing is on phase 3 being built.
Well, I think phase 2 and 3 are really just dependent upon us finding the water rights.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just give you some background. I've expressed this to Steve and Maureen also too, to the extent that we had certificates for all 305 lots, the whole project would get built right now. I mean, including the south side of County Road 6. But it's, you know, you're probably aware that we are working with the town on a new water right to bring to the community that could serve the rest of the project. But I think that the final determination, that's probably going to take 6 months to get through all the dot our i's, cross our t's, and to make sure that it actually works well with the town's current water treatment facility.
So if I may, the question, while you had stepped outside, sir, was about the improvements on Road 6 and when those would go into effect. And it looks like on your project narrative, it has under phase 3 is when the improvements to Road 6.
That's correct. Once phase 3 is commenced and any infrastructure surety's posted for phase 3, it'll have the surety component. I don't know, just step back. The agreement will be developed in 3 phases. Surety will be posted through a letter of credit for all the public improvements for phase 1. Once the decision is made to trigger phase 3, the surety will be posted for County Road 6 and will be constructed as part of that whole phase.
And is that the interim road section?
Yeah, there's
that was
interim approach.
referenced?
Yeah, correct. We've been working with Steve and JVA and Apex. There's 2 lanes of pavement, storm drainage improvements, and then there's also a tree lawn and then a 10-foot wide sidewalk. And that's actually the cross-section, it's in the...
It's attached to the Second Amendment to the
yes.
annexation agreement.
Yeah, if you have that, it's attached to the Second Amendment of the annexation. Because we're amending our PUD as to what's going to be constructed along County Road 6, and that's why we're amending I'm sorry, it's in our annexation and development agreement.
So, I will start with questions now with Trustee Yap.
And just to recall, what we're talking about first is Ordinance 633 and the annexation agreement, because I do want to talk to you a little bit more about some of the public improvements that, County Road 6 is within the annexation agreement, so that's great. But other things, and Mark's mentioned them a couple times, water is an issue, and we need to talk about that. We'll talk about that when we start talking about the subdivision improvement agreement.
So, annexation agreement questions. Trustee Yap.
The pictures of all the stuff that's being developed in the park and everything, are great. Are they a conceptual or they're what it's actually gonna be?
No, that's actually what it's gonna be. Those are, I mean, it's correct. They're part of the actual landscape plan that,
Okay, so those are real plans for the park?
yeah, they're actually, I don't know, they probably take it right off their CAD or whatnot, and modern technology, poof, they get these nice conceptual renderings based upon the actual plan set.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was what's actually gonna happen,
Yeah.
not just what might happen.
There's no bait and switch on that one, but not that I'm aware of.
I'm in the car business.
No, I'm kidding, but no, that's driven right off the plans, right? Yeah.
Okay, and then, obviously I'm concerned about the water, but we know we're just doing the first 111 homes.
Yeah, LGI is bringing, who's our contractual builder, is bringing 10 water certificates, and we're bringing the remainder of the water certificates. And those are all, we actually worked at, go ahead, Maureen.
Well, I just want to be clear that we are in fact platting a full 305 lots.
Correct.
But
Right,
there's
but
only.
you can't start the other two until they have the water. Yeah, that's, no, I understand we're approving it all at once, but. with the
Yeah,
con-
and
with-
one thing we've worked out, what I think it's a really smart thing to do, and Steve and Maureen have been championing this, is that prior to the pulling of a grading permit, all the certificates are going to be surrendered to the town with an adjoining spreadsheet and map. We're going to actually attach, I don't know how familiar you are with the certificates, because you got to we live in the weeds, but every certificate has, I mean, they're labeled like 1 through 135. We're going to create a map and dedicate a water certificate that's going to be assigned to a specific lot, and we'll have a spreadsheet so that the town will know that all the certificates are done and available, or under your possession and tied to a specific lot, prior to pulling the grading permit out there. That's outlined in the subdivision improvement agreement and water dedication agreement, right?
Right.
So, thank you, just looking forward to the future development.
Thank you. We like to.
Commercial area.
Yeah, that'd be good, right?
Yep.
Questions on the annexation agreement, trustee Doherty?
I do. I have some questions. And if they're not pertaining to that part, let me know. Can you reiterate what County Road 6, so I see this section there, but you have it based on a center line and everything south of that center line. So the way that I interpret that is that anything north of, and is that a current center line? Or is that a proposed center line?
That's the County Road 6 right now is a 60-foot wide right-of-way, 30 feet from center line. We're proposing that, yeah, that's the existing center line that we're constructing to go into the south half, right, Wendell? Yeah.
So, okay, so you showed 2 lanes. So, and there's already an existing lane in the opposite direction, right, if it's based on current center line. So
Yeah,
this would be a
there's-
3 lane or 3 pavement lane, but one of those, the middle one, is just a turning lane at this point, is that correct?
Well, County Road 6, just a quick background, first of all, it hasn't been annexed into the town, and we've agreed in that annexation agreement, right, that we'll be annexing in the town. Right now, it's just a 2-lane dirt road. There's no existing pavement on County Road 6.
Okay, so if this is based on, okay, so right now.
So we're talking about constructing and improving the south half from the section line. I mean, at that time when it really happens, I live too much in this stuff, but we'll have to make a decision whether the town wants to try to annex in all of County Road 6 or just half of County Road 6.
So
And just so we know, we weren't trying to skirt anything in 2004, but the recommendation that we all came to, or the conclusion we all came to, was it better that the town doesn't annex it in right now, because that way we don't want to accept maintenance and all that type of stuff.
That all makes sense. I guess I'm trying to better understand what the road's gonna look like in a final state. So if this is based on current center line, and we're putting 2 lanes to the south of the current center line, is that shifting the lane of traffic then? So is one of these 2 lanes that you have shown, if one's gonna be east and one's gonna be west?
That's a really good question. That's correct, though. Yeah, because we're building a roadway going west and a roadway going east.
Okay, so temporarily, the center line of the road's actually gonna be moving south temporarily, correct?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry, I'm just trying to understand what that looks like. And there's,
I want to make sure he's awake back there. I'm kidding.
and there's turning lanes included on that?
Turning lanes would be, as part of the ultimate cross-section for the
Oh,
road.
okay.
I mean, the ultimate cross-section for the road is,
Right.
turning lanes, 2 lanes of pavement, tree lawn, 10-foot sidewalk, et cetera.
Yep.
So this is really what we're with as it relates to this filing.
And then this is gonna start construction on this with phase 3?
Yeah, correct, with
Okay.
phase 3. We won't have any access on, phases 1, phase 1 and phase 2 don't have access
Right.
on to County Road 6, so.
And then, so this is just temporary, and so what was the catch for when it gets built out to the full section?
Well, it's, at this juncture, that's not our obligation, or it would have to be negotiated in our next subdivision improvement agreement as we move further west. Right now, the traffic counts on that even come out of our subdivision would be pretty low.
So, good, I guess my understanding is, so the amendment is making it so we're reducing what's required for this, correct?
That's correct.
That's
But
correct.
I thought you were saying that the total improvement is still in there at some point. So I guess we're reducing this, but there's no catch that we need to actually get to the full section in this agreement?
That's correct. There's no catch that they need to get to the full section. If they build this, they've met the obligation.
Okay. So, I guess we're reducing what's required for some reason? So what was the reasoning to amend the agreement, to narrow that road?
Could I answer that?
Yeah, I don't think.
I think that we worked with Apex. We have our own traffic consultant, Mike Roca. We have did quite a bit of analysis and traffic count studies and so on. The ultimate cross-section for County Road 6 really isn't going to have any traffic warranted, or what they call in the traffic industry warrants. For that entire cross-section, it would be a big, lonely road that right now, our obligation, or really the road only goes over to County Road. I'm sorry, it only goes over to Spear. I don't know if for you who don't know. County Road 6 doesn't go all the way over to Highway 85. It becomes a very fractured road going west of us. We are part of our PUD. We only intend to construct County Road 6 over to the east, to the Spear Canal. We never see us building County Road 6 all the way over to the far western edge of our project. And so I think in working with Apex, who's the traffic consultant for the town as well as ours, they're all in agreement. The consultants are that's a very that cross section there will serve the project totally 100% adequately. And we've also, just so everybody know too, we've made obligations to construct it, just so there's no question about it, we'll construct it all the way over to County Road 37, even though we don't have the right-of-way to dedicate in order to do that.
You said 37, but 35?
37. So we lose, we don't have, excuse me, we don't have any right-of-way in a certain portion on the east side of our project.
Oh, right, that makes sense.
There's a little out parcel, the Byerly family lives there.
Yep.
But we really, Apex and our traffic consultants understand that really the warrant for the type of road cross-section that needs to be constructed for our project is adequately served by that cross-section that's in the amendment.
Okay.
That's how we arrived at that. But I understand your point, but it would be a big, big, lonely road that, I don't know that. Yeah.
Could I just add also, within the recently adopted comprehensive plan, County Road 6 is not even itemized as any kind of larger section.
Right.
So there's multimodal corridors for County Road 8
Yep.
and County Road 4. So it just kind of goes in between as a, less intensive road.
That makes sense. Okay. Sorry, I have quite a few questions. What are your improvements on 37?
Oh, yeah, well, it'll help me out here. What are we adding over there?
Is that, I guess, I'm.
Because
I think we're going to get to that when we talk about the subdivision improvement
Okay,
agreement.
no, then that's
Yeah.
fine, then
Which we might need a recess before we can take the subdivision improvement agreement. We just had an issue come up a little later today that we're still needing to
So
work
we're
through.
really focusing on ordinance 633.
Correct.
That's it right now.
Correct.
Okay. you talked about fee rates. Are they getting updated to our current fee structure? Or based on the PUD, is it set based on an old fee structure that, for like tap fees and so forth?
We updated them to fees that you have legislatively changed over time, and then we also updated them to take into effect the effect of inflation on certain fees that had an automatic inflationary adjustment.
Okay. And if I had questions on the park, I'm guessing that's not part of 633, so I'll wait. And then parking on each side, I don't think that's addressed in ordinance 633 as well, so I'll wait on that one as well. I think as it pertains to ordinance 633, that's all that I have.
Trustee Morris, any questions on the annexation?
Yeah, stop me if this is not applicable to this. One question, actually, I'll hold up on that one. I don't know if we could pull up the aerial view of the thing real quick.
What was on the side, sir?
Yeah, and it's fine if you can. So there's one entrance to this new filing, or the second filing that we're doing, ingress egress off of 37.
Correct.
When, that works. When will that, and maybe if we could find the one that shows the 3 phases.
Oh, okay.
If we could get that,
I
might
think
be
it's kind of near the end.
more helpful.
There we go.
When is the connection gonna go into the first filing, to the?
That'll be
development
built
itself?
right in the, right along with phase 1. We actually, you can't really, by code, we have to have 2 points of ingress egress, so that'll be constructed immediately with all the other improvements in phase 1.
Okay, thank you. That resolves the second part of that, about the 2 accesses.
Yeah, you got 2 accesses, right.
There's, I forget which section it is, but there's language about a existing well that has been capped that would affect a couple of properties.
Yeah, you can see that there on that facing map there.
Can you?
You know what? I gotta use my Hanley laser to see if this thing works. I don't get to use this very often, but it's yeah, it doesn't work on my screen. Darn it! You can see it right there. It's a little. I'll show you where.
It's that red dot? It's the red dot right there.
We're obsessed with this thing, you know?
Okay. Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's the other one they plugged and abandoned before they moved down to the one on the state landboard site. Cool.
Yeah, well, the Crestone folks who were here earlier, they as a requirement for their horizontal fracking on the south half of the section, the COGCC, which is the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission, required that they go back out there, and from our perspective, it was kind of fortuitous, to be honest, you know, like, hey, thank you, you know, but they were required to plug and abandon that to 2017, 2018 standards. It was plug and abandoned back in like 75. And, you know, obviously things have changed quite a bit since then. The nice thing about that well, from the standpoint of safety, is that it never produced. It was a dry well, so there was never any production out of it. You know, everybody's familiar with what happened in Frederick, and so there's no gathering lines or lines ever built to it that never even produced, which is a good thing.
Is there anything above grade or above ground?
Yeah, they'll have a little monument on there, and that's why we've done the setback there. You know, we worked with staff on that, and there's a 25-foot setback around that entire area. We built the access corridor if anybody, you know, ever needed to go in there and take a look at it or whatnot, but.
Is that the little green P there?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, yeah, I mean, we got kind of lucky, as I said before, with Crestone coming in to do it, and they just finished it up, as Steve said. So we did the setback around it, et cetera, and, but I couldn't tell you exactly what, because they have a little placard there. We've requested from Crestone the package that they're gonna send to kind of finalize their plug and abandonment of it, and we'll share that with Steve and obviously the staff too, so everybody has it on record.
Okay. Final question on this part. Will there be access off of, I think, is that Upland Street, access onto Road 6 during the development or the build out at all?
I'm embarrassed to say which one's Upland. Is that the main one that goes north-south?
The main one, yeah, just left of the park where it ties into Road 6. I
No,
know that doesn't go in permanently until phase 3, but will that be dirt access at all, especially for construction traffic in and out?
That would be the only scenario, and that would, I really leave that up to our builder, LGI, who's gonna do all the infrastructure. And if that happened, they'd obviously have to come to the town, and my instinct is I'd prefer to stay away from that, just because you gotta introduce it, the town doesn't own that road. We did build it, I don't know if you knew that we built a construction access into the far side of Filing 1, on the north side there, just to eliminate a lot of the construction traffic going in and out through the community, but it's not contemplated for phase 1 right now.
That was my primary thought, is just to alleviate construction traffic, since I believe you're gonna start on the east side and then build, the growth or building will happen.
Probably so. I mean, if they put all that, I like your idea, I haven't given it, because it's not kind of my top of my laundry list yet, but I think it will be eventually. And I think that we would have to, technically, you would probably want some protections for any kind of damage done to County Road 6, et cetera. So it's a little bit more than just, I think that's a next generation thing that we need to address.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Straka on the annexation agreement?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused by all the agreements and what's right and when.
Well,
when
you
is
should,
it
we should take a number, man. We've all been working really hard on it.
Yes, congratulations, man.
We could go back to that one side that lists the agreements we're doing tonight.
It may be hearsay, but I heard once that there was a bridge at the Spear Canal that has been washed out in the past. And so I guess I'm gonna ask somewhere down the line, and this probably isn't about the thing, but who's on the hook for that bridge?
Well, at this juncture.
Well, nothing right now, I guess.
Yeah, nobody's on the hook right now.
Sure, I realize that, so.
Yeah.
That's back in some of these other planning areas, planning area 6, and when you get over to 8, so. That was really it. I kind of wondered about, the way you marked off, phase 1.
Right.
It looked to me like you could have included 14 lots over on Zephyr and taken, 14 lots that are west of Upham on.
So you're talking about going north rather than south there?
No,
Well, I'll tell you
just-
one of the primary reasons of our phasing. Well, first of all, our phasing was driven by how many water skirts we had. And 2, we wanted to make sure that we included the park, and we wanted the park to be central. So if we had drifted too far north on our phasing plan, it's also really important that the lots that are around the park get developed, because we got to put the infrastructure into the park, and that means the curb and gutter, sidewalk, irrigation, et cetera. So that was really the 2 driving principles of it.
Yeah, I think my curiosity was just the lots that are on the east side that would back up to the commercial area.
Well, we cut that off kind of like 6 lots up, right?
Yeah, there's that little section. If you could go back to your filing number 2 design.
Yeah, it's right down there.
Yeah, keep going.
It's further down. There you go. Yeah, we could.
There, that little leg that comes down on the east.
Larry, one of the reasons we stopped it there is if we went much further north, if we couldn't loop it all the way around that road, we would have had a dead end. If we got maybe
Yeah, I see
5
it.
or 6 more lots north, then
Yeah.
we got a dead end water line that's too
I
far.
certainly see it. Thank you.
Yeah. That's why we cut it there. And if you notice, all that infrastructure loops there, there's no incomplete loop of water or sewer. The park gets fully developed. We have just 2 little dead-end water lines there on the far right-hand side and on the far left-hand side of the park. So it's all kind of been designed with engineering in mind, too.
All right, thank you.
Trustee Early?
Do I talk about traffic within the subdivision now, or do I wait?
You could probably wait, we could talk about it with the SIA, but.
So parking, anything like that, wait for the next section?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
really about the public improvements within the subdivision, we'll talk about that in a minute.
And I only had one quick question. So the improvements that will happen to 6 with phase 3, is 6 going to stay on its current path and go out to 37 above that corner house, or is it going to cut down where you kind of have the?
It's a good question. We're going to take it straight across.
Okay, so is that, there's kind of like, it looks like you guys have almost cut a dirt road that runs the corner. Is that What's the plan there?
Well, effectively, one of the nice things about the interim cross-section that we were talking about before with you, Grant, is that we don't have that additional 10-foot of right-of-way.
Right.
So we'll be building within the current, we'll annex in, whether it be the south half of County Road 6, the entire route of County Road 6, but we won't have that 10 feet. I'll just call it the Byerly property that who lives there. So that interim section where we have the 2 lanes of pavement will fit right through there over to 37.
Okay. And so that's not, there's no road or anything that's running that corner right there? Just
No, you know what that is? That's actually that's a 15-foot setback that when we transacted with the Byerlys, we provided that, so.
Okay. Yeah, it looks very much like there's a road cut in there.
It does, yeah, it does, but that's Henry's stomping grounds over there, Henry Byerly, you know, the Byerlys.
Okay. That's all I had. So with that, I will entertain a motion on.
I have one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick. Thank you. In Exhibit D, reimbursement obligations, it talks about a oversized water line, and I think that was just mentioned. Could you, real quick, elaborate on that?
That's in the SIA though, right?
It is, it's
Am I
in
there?
the SIA.
Exhibit D of SIA?
Yeah.
Okay, disregard for.
Good, because that's a tough question, I don't want to deal with that one.
Way to throw everything out.
Yeah,
So
that's in the SIA agreement, it's,
So I will entertain a motion on ordinance 633, the annexation agreement.
I move to approve ordinance number 633, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees approving a second amendment to the annexation and development agreement for Blue Lakes concerning, among others, the process for approving plats and defining the obligations related to construction of Weld County Road 6 and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Willing?
Yes.
Trustee Trump?
yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Dory?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoffman?
Yes, and the motion carries. So now we will move on to resolution 2018-6. Ms. Jarrett?
So we had an issue come up late this afternoon that may affect the SIA. And I guess I would like to take just a few minutes of a recess if the board would indulge us, so we can have some conversations with the applicant and figure out where we are on this.
5 minutes or 10 minutes?
I don't know.
Stephen had a chance, but maybe just 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah, let's take a 10-minute recess till 9:30. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
9-5, aye.
Yeah, we'll go to
You guys have snacks?
That was, you asked so many questions, like, I said, you're all asking her, sits and it's like, it's a dirt road, but, I mean, the only traffic that's gonna come out is from, oh, no. What am I looking at? Okay. No, I was thinking, you asked all the questions. Well, when I drove by, I was like, what the heck? This is a dirt road, what is this gonna look like?
Well, is it dirt, like, do the people going east or going west, are they driving on dirt road and the people going west? Yeah.
I mean, it's not something that we're planning to annex ever.
Jeff, too. You always look so good.
Well, so that's, I have tons of those on this next thing, so I had probably like 8 things.
No, I'm just kidding.
I couldn't tell.
Need some.
Yeah, absolutely.
How things going over there?
I don't
think a lot of them are.
I don't think they are.
Oh, I hope not.
I don't think they are. But when I look at this, they have sections provided for parking on one side. So that's part of my question, and then same thing here. So, no, I have a laundry list of.
We'll start with me then.
I'm one of
He does cover most of my questions.
That's what I was just telling him, I was like, I had all kinds of questions. Thanks, but you asked.
The reason we're doing
that makes a ton of sense. So we don't, there's nothing annexed outside of that half, basically that center line of the road.
Hey, I've been wanting to go
Yeah,
ride
that makes
along.
sense.
I signed up for one a couple of weeks ago, but it was on a Wednesday. The chief was like,
Yeah.
oh, man, dude, do it tomorrow.
Yep.
So I just kept- Everybody start drinking. I'm afraid of that.
So I wanted to show you my little report here. I
Yep.
finally got some info on the website. So I had a meeting with the website, and I can give you a copy of this if you want. So it just kind of tells us how many total visits we've had. For 2017.
Yeah, that makes sense. Basically to remove the curb and gutter, so you don't have curb and gutter on the
But this
We have 2,000 water.
How do we make this work?
So this could either, this may be the same person, it could be that I visited this site 1,000 times. So it's not necessarily different visit or different people. So those are just all the visits.
That makes sense.
Our website traffic remained the same for 2017 as well as 2016. These are our top visitors.
Well, that's what I'm like.
Job opportunities.
Whoever was on the board thought it true, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm thinking this.
So that's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th most visited thing. Archive Center is where our agendas and events and stuff are.
It's coming.
So that's for the year.
Uh-huh. Well, for the whole year, yeah. And that can be anyone, online or anybody, it may not just be red, I mean, it could be anybody. Pop search terms, fireworks, water, building permits, craft, zoning permits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is nice.
Fireworks, yeah, this was really good information. 42% of our traffic comes from a mobile device, so we may want to talk about having an app for our website, or they talked about redoing our website to be more mobile friendly, so when you do search on your phone, it's easier. You might be interested in this.
I was just gonna say, what?
What?
Well, Brighton just redid theirs, and theirs is really nice.
Yeah, so I just had a meeting with Civic Plus just to go over some of our analytics of our website, what we visited most. Larry had asked how many visits we get on our page and stuff. So 42% is done from mobile devices, so we talked about maybe having a mobile app for our website, or redoing our website to be more mobile friendly, so when you do search on your phone, it looks better and you can find it easier.
What Brighton just did, because theirs kind of simplified down.
Yeah. And I can send this out to all the board too, if you guys want this whole, we did a whole little report, see Jacob, that shows like our total visits. We had about the same visits for 2017, 2016.
Were they unique visits or?
No, just total, yeah. And then, you know, what's visited the most or top pages, job opportunities.
It ain't over till it's over.
Surprising, police, newsflash, public utilities, newsletter, archive center, minutes and stuff are. These are our search terms, top search terms. Fireworks is number 1. For last year, this is all 2017 info. And then those were the local statistics.
Well, Zach? Yes, Zach.
Would you say otherwise?
Site recommendations.
Would you say otherwise?
Discuss redesign possibilities.
If I didn't like him, he wouldn't be here.
Fair enough.
Simple.
I just was
They
asking.
Happy fit, say happy fit.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
And then little families, this stuff was just,
or dysfunctional family.
Well, all families are, so.
Yeah, no, they have to fit. I don't care if you come with a slew of knowledge, you have to fit. If you don't fit us,
and then we just kind of talked about,
you know, it's just,
there's our guy.
cops are weird. You know, and if you don't fit right away,
These were some of the different things that we talked about doing.
out.
Make it better.
Yeah, just to make it better, which he's supposed to be sending me like a phone of some different
Yeah.
design options that could possibly be.
Check out Brighton's new one, Larry. It's a lot more user-friendly.
Yeah, I'd like to do that, because it was all pretty interesting too.
Yeah, they always had so much information on it, and they've really streamlined it down.
Oh,
It's
it was
really nice now.
confusing
I
so
think
much.
it does make,
The cool thing is that we're getting a different system. It's all computerized system, so now I don't have to sit out there and draw my intersections out. It'll be all computerized, so my traffic access is gonna be quicker. Like, just call it tow truck, let's go. Let's get him out of here. You know, but.
What was the accident the other day where you guys had to close the whole bridge? What happened there?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I saw you.
Yeah, the motorcycle guy ate it. He took that corner and ate it and right on his face. Oh dear.
Did he live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, his nose is like this way now, but yeah.
Man.
It's fine. It's fine. His bike is all, it's cosmetic, but.
Well, I'm glad to hear he lived. I assumed someone happened to him.
Yeah, I mean, he cares more about his bike than he does him.
Yeah. I think that's the case with a lot of people that
Should've had
own bikes.
Should have had a helmet. If he would have had something on, he'd be all right.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have still got some road rash, but he wouldn't have gotten transport.
We are still live streaming because I can't stop the
Great.
live stream.
Carlos.
He's all, I'm out.
He was doing good.
What was that about not needing
Does
search warrants?
it show at all how many people or tuned in at all? I mean, can we see that or?
I don't know if I can see right now.
We have to get that fixed because, you know, the problem with it constantly saying it's live is that it's still tied to our December agenda.
I noticed that because I was trying to click on our website on the live thing and it goes to December 5th.
Right.
So you have to click on the actual meeting, but I'll call, Open Media, I think it's something with them.
And see if we
Maybe
can.
we should figure out my electrical problem.
Well, that one it didn't record right, it only recorded like 30 minutes of the meeting, so I had to take that one down. But, so like when you go to the website.
Sean May.
Oh, yeah.
July,
They
it was
had it,
like live
he's the Adams County DA that got
They
down.
haven't raised our here in a month or two.
That one's fun, actually, yeah.
3 or 9.
But if you go.
There you go. You go every year, right?
Yeah, I have been. I'm after Judge Davis. I got to stay at the end.
I have to switch back and forth.
The
so
DA
I
who
need to show the
prosecuted my
camera, I
former
can show the
brother-in-law,
screen, so
sent him to prison for
when the presentation
expensive
goes up, I switch to
for
the screen, and then when they're done, it's like.
curious
Marcus
choices.
is talking,
Okay.
back to-
And shortly after the trial was when he was gunned down, so my ex's family were all
Questioned and.
very intently scrutinized.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago, a couple of detectives came out and interviewed me several times at where I worked about different members of our family, some of the evidence, footage that they had. And then they had me go down to the crime lab to try to identify them.
Wow.
It was uncanny, because they had me thinking they're thinking of a certain drug. And they're like, nah, you know, it's just, we chatted a little bit, and then they're asking me about some of her other drugs.
Hey, Monica?
Can you play that back?
I have power now.
It's like an aerial figure in 7-Eleven, and it shows a guy looking out and do stuff. Anyway. So, I think that is the other former brother was a Chad. It's the same head, same shoulders, but you don't see his face. But they're like, that is enough that you could possibly identify.
They're all this size right there. So that's 7 foot.
I've never had any worse feeling.
Yes.
And so then, of course, I'm at, and they're just like, thank you, because that's what we included too. Just wanted, you know.
Is that someone that, yeah.
And so then I asked him, like, so how's this guy? Can't tell you.
Yep.
We can't tell you that he is involved. Everyone in Missouri can't say that.
Right.
So then I just
Because they don't want to taint your
right.
Yeah.
2 foot right away on each side.
So,
This kind of shows, see, there's 2 foot right away on each side. It's 32 feet.
do you remember a case across the street of Lewis County? There was a lady named Family's house.
That's fine. Every one of those streets. That's what he showed.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. It's awfully narrow though.
And now you're the guy.
So that's at least big enough.
That's where you make sure you have a very amicable.
Oh, so the 36.
Oh, jeez. But if I've survived this long without a bullet in the back of the head, or a knife to knife through,
You're good.
I mean, that's right from the edge of that curved almost one day, you're mirrored in the missing link.
Well, I guess that makes sense.
And it's gonna dominate.
36, if they're all at 36, and that's what they.
somehow,
Mine's 2 foot on each side of the right of way.
Gonna be
possibly evolved,
Not 36. actually
allegedly
32.
evolved somehow, and I don't know.
I mean, it wouldn't be unusual that they would have a history of.
Yeah, but they're showing with right away here.
Two
Or
brothers,
tied.
two brothers, one's a prison.
Murder or?
It looks like.
No.
Yes. People will still ask. So it's on the record what they said.
That's the only other thing that'll get you life.
He was 15 to life, and he's done, he was convicted in 07. He'll be in the crowbar.
Yeah, he's not even tolerating treatment in jail.
And the other one.
Wait, so he was in China too?
Yes.
It is tight for like a fire truck and a car.
Well, both, yeah, but you have to spend,
Have to yield.
get out of the way of fire truck.
I don't know if he's disbarred, he's just suspended for 3 years. His name's Mark.
Time for breakfast yet?
Yeah. This is still not our latest.
Oh, no.
Oh. Don't tempt fate. Don't tempt fate. Imagine if we would have had that hearing tonight.
None.
This is revised from what's in your packet.
You guys amend a contract that quick?
You tell him.
Hot off the press?
It says on my paycheck 1 hour.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying to see if we can get lower than minimum wage this month.
This is
revised from what's in your packet.
Okay.
I tried. You got it. Oh, did I? Yep. Oh, sweet.
This is revised.
You picked a terrible meeting to invite the public to.
got a lot of dedication.
These guys are not going to be interested in being part of this.
Those three dudes, I think they all live in Blue Lake up there.
Oh, so they're actually interested. Yeah.
Whereas heretofore,
The formations are not. Where's this agreement? 6 and 8. Don't know if that matters or not.
2018-6.
Ask when we have our public hearing for sure.
2018-6.
Yeah.
Shit, man, make sure he comes back for that meeting then.
Well, when we got educated on it, he said between, I think said 7,000 feet.
Can I ask?
Just
Okay, all right.
It's on here on the agenda. I don't know whether that matters.
So, well, I mean, that's the wording of the resolution, so. We definitely should get him to come back and make some public comments with you.
There it is. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't think you need to change, yeah, so you can make that 6, and if you can change that to
We ready to go? Okay. So I will resume what is probably the weirdest meeting in my 6 years on the board at 9:38 p.m. And we will begin our discussion of Resolution 2018-6.
Are you gonna, Ross, do you want me to go? Or?
Yeah, we're just, consider the final plat and its resolution with all pertinent documents. Your staff report included a lot of exhibits for generalities of community design and conformance to the PUD requirements, so those, the applicants provided those as extra items for you to kind of see the quality of the neighborhood in association with his presentation. So we will use those documents as archived items with the project, but generally moving forward, it's the final plat that will be recorded and the phasing plan that will be connected to the SIA, and everything else that's with the SIA that's a exhibit for the infrastructure improvements that Maureen can talk about a little bit more. But make a motion, and we look for your consideration.
All right, so 2018-6, and the document I just handed you is labeled 2018-4. That's an error in the resolution number. It's in fact 2018-6. Accomplishes two things. It approves the plat, as Ross just indicated to you. The plat's been reviewed to see whether it's in conformity with the PUD regulations and also the town's land development code requirements. There is a change to ordinance 2018-6, and that's why I just handed that form to you, and it's in section 2. Earlier today, there was a new easement that was recorded on the property. It really affects the area that's designated to be dedicated for Boulder County Road 6, and it's an easement for a water pipeline. It just goes recorded this afternoon, so as you approve the plat, and that's frankly what we were conversing about in the back room, when you approve the plat tonight, we want you to approve it on the condition that it be amended to reflect this new easement on the appropriate pages. And so my understanding is they're going to get that amendment made within 24 hours or so, and we'll be signing on that. So that's why you have a revised resolution 2018-6 in front of you. It's that change to section 2 regarding the plat. The other thing that resolution 2018-6 accomplishes is an approval of the SIA water dedication agreement. And just to touch on the highlights of what's in that agreement, it contains the process for providing security, constructing, and for town acceptance of public improvements generally. It lists the public improvements and the timing of some. It indicates what an estimated construction cost is for the public improvements, so we can figure out what the amount of bonding should be to ensure that we have security for those public improvements. It provides for, once we accept the public improvements, that there'll be a 1-year warranty period on the public improvements. That comes from our land development code standards. It requires that they'll put in an oversized water line, what would be an 8-inch line. They're going to put in a 16-inch line, and the town's going to pay the delta on the cost difference between that 8-inch and 16-inch line. We're going to do that basically with 2 payments over 2 years and just get that done. It requires that the park, the open space, and the fencing are substantially completed by the 50th building permit. It requires, importantly, that the owner brings the water necessary for phase 2 and phase 3. As you heard, they've got sufficient water certificates for all the lots, and the required irrigation certificates also for phase 1, but they don't yet have the water identified for phase 2 or phase 3. I think they got some good leads on water, but they're not there yet. To protect the buyers of lots within phase 2 and phase 3, because we're going ahead and subdividing and creating those lots. We're putting a building restriction notice against those lots. It'll be recorded in the public records at the clerk and recorder's office, and basically says you can't pull a building permit on this until the town releases this building restriction. We'll release it when we're satisfied that sufficient water resources have been dedicated. It does provide that they can assign their obligations to LGI or to a district without coming back to the town board for approval of that. But any other assignment of the agreement to any other entity would require them to come back to the town. And again, it updates the fee schedule that's applicable to the agreement. I think that I hit the major highlights in the SIA, but feel free to add to that.
Okay. Questions, comments for Mr. Bush or Mr. Hahn? Trustee Early. Trustee Strack?
I was really glad to see there was parking on both sides of the street. And then my other question was about the water certificates, and I know we've talked about them many times. I'd like to ask you if these, the 113 certificates you have, are those Silver Peak certificates or Antonov certificates? Or are they complete?
Those are Class B, those are the old Antonov certificates.
They all are?
Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm like 90% sure on that answer, Larry, but I think we own also Silver Peaks. I can't, do you recall, Russ? I'm pretty sure they're part of that water agreement. They're part of the Antonov water resource.
So the majority are probably.
I think they all are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I can't speak for the LGI ones that are referenced in the SIA, because I asked them to get that, but I can just, that's for ours.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yeah, I was trying to cross-reference something. In paragraph 2.14, the off-site street improvements, it references the 501st building permit before, or sorry, 500th, and then the off-site improvements. And I was trying to reference back to the other document to clarify specifically which ones those were. Off the top of your head, do you know, is that the 36, is that 37?
Well, there's an original agreement that at the 500th building permit pulled in the project, we're to have completed basically a cash in lieu to the town for improvements for Well County Road 2 and County Road 37. There was an amount that was identified in that, and that was, I think that's what Maureen was referencing, were increased for the CPR or CPI. There's an improvement that we need to dedicate money to for turn lane at 37 and 4. Okay, so what happens is the original traffic study identified regional impacts that we would have on the project. So it said that we would have an impact at the 500th building permit on, although that front of road intersection is crazier than, the craziest. Even coming in here today was just nerve-wracking. But the original traffic report said that 500th building permit that you would have these regional impacts. So then there was a cash number that was identified to what those improvements cost for like an additional turn lane or something to that effect. And so at the 500th building permit, we make the cash in lieu payment for the contribution for the frontage road in 37, County Road 4 and 37. And we also need to do improvements to Well County Road 37. We're actually going to meet the obligations in that 500th building permit with our current improvements. And we're looking at potentially, we've done it will be done in the frontage associated with filing 2. We're looking at just getting that done for right now and building it for filing 1 also too. But we do have an obligation in front of filing 1. And that's an additional lane of pavement. I can't remember the exact specific items. But what was going to get constructed right now would meet that obligation associated for the frontage on filing too.
The 37 improvements.
Exactly, the
Part of
37 improvements,
filing
exactly.
for, phase one.
Right, and so we gotta look at, we're thinking about just getting the filing one obligation at that 500 building permit done now and just piggyback on the improvements we're doing in front of filing too. I haven't mentioned that to Steve Marine yet because I haven't finalized it yet, but I'm sharing that with you now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing
That's it. The other questions were already addressed.
Okay. Trustee Dory?
I have a couple things. So you have, in phase one that it includes commercial. Do you guys have something slated for that right now?
We
or-
don't, we'll just grade it as part of the grading template. We don't have anybody interested in the commercial right now.
So you guys, through LGI have built the houses, do you guys do something similar with commercial, or do you basically sell off the entire property and have somebody else develop the building itself?
For commercial properties, we've
Yeah.
done both, actually. We've acted as commercial vertical developers as well as kind of the horizontal guys is what I call it. You know, getting it site planned out. And in our Buffalo Run project, we're doing both, actually.
Okay. And then I think you kind of spoke to this a little bit sooner. What's your guys' anticipated timeline for completing, I guess, phase one?
Oh, the infrastructure there? I can tell you that just talking with Maureen, we talked about it, she mentioned in SIA, we're going to give a partial assignment of the SIA to LGI Homes for the phase one obligations associated in the SIA. That's what's agreed to within the document. Just, it's probably getting a little bit broader than your question, but I think it gives you some better context. So LGI Homes is going to assume all the responsibilities associated with phase one. Where then, their intention is, I mean, I would be surprised if we don't have scrapers out there in 2 weeks. And then they hopefully, they are shooting for, to have all the infrastructure, and I'm saying infrastructure, I mean all the horizontal infrastructure, water, sewer, all that stuff, curb and gutter, done by October.
Okay. I guess one of my concerns is that with the initial one that was done, I think a lot of the development, or I guess a lot of the infrastructure was kind of put in place, but then it was left a little desolate when there was a downturn.
Yeah.
And I guess, do we have anything to kind of catch that, or to make sure that if you guys come back in, hopefully not, but let's say this lags out for 10 years, to make sure that those roads have been maintained or can get back up to current code?
Yeah, no, you're asking a really good question, because I'll tell you what, one night, you have a much more professional staff than you had back in 2004. What happened there was Trail Ridge Homes, we did a similar program with the builder that was developing phases 1 and phases 1A of filing one. The market just disappeared on them. They had some issues with title and some other things, and they just disappointingly just kind of walked away. And they had partial public improvements completed. I know exactly where you're talking about, kind of there on the north side of filing one,
Yeah.
where it looked pretty run down for a while. And those were actually purchased by LGI, who then came in and did the proper infrastructure. But I think that at the time, the letters of credit and those type of things, the city chose not to pursue them and try to build out that infrastructure themselves. They figured they'd be better off in a position of not taking on any obligations or liability associated with it. But I will also, Steve and Maureen are, the city's grown and the town's grown a lot in terms of its staff and leadership, and including, I give the board credit on this too. So I think that we have a much more organized scenario. So there will be a letter of credit up for all the public infrastructure, water, sewer, road, concrete, pavement, sidewalk, all that type of stuff. So the letter of credit will be in place, for example, if we had a similar downturn in the middle of the infrastructure out there.
Do you know what LGI's plan is for kind of, I guess, timeline for all of these lots on actually having houses on them?
They want to be
for just the phase one.
Phase one, they'd like to build building permits as soon as the top lift's done and start. The way our builder operates is they they build like 15 homes at a time. They're not kind of pre-sale people. They'll just go out and build 15. They'll go come in and pull 10, 15 building permits, build them, build them up even if they don't have contracts for them. So their intention is to try to, I think they'll be pulling building permits or talking with the town about building permits in the late summer, early fall, depending on the level of infrastructure. You can't, it really depends on different communities allow building permits to be pulled at different times, whether the top lift of asphalt or the bottom coat of the asphalt's been put in place. Some are more restrictive. If there's not free-flowing water, there's always a fire concern. You know, is a water line in the place, been tested if you're building houses out there, and public safety has to have access to it. So I think that, depending on, I'm hoping we're pulling building permits, you know, certainly by October 1.
Okay. And then, so we kind of talked earlier about County Road 6, and I know you touched on 37. So the current improvements that you guys are going to be doing on 37 is to do left turn into both entrances, and then also a right turn on the south drive?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you want to answer that, he can give you a better answer than I can to that, more technical, you know.
My name is Wendell Ayers at 7852 South Atlantic Street in Middleton, Colorado. The improvements for the main entrance into Filing 2 is going to be from the center line. We're going to widen it out to provide a left turn pocket into that roadway, an acceleration north out of that roadway, and a turn pocket for entry from the southbound into the development. And then we will extend an acceleration lane from this entrance all the way down to the current entrance into Filing 1.
That makes sense.
So it's basically providing turn pockets in both directions and widening it out to all the way down to the current entrance into Filing 1.
That's planned with phase 1?
That's a part of this phase 1, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. And
then it would taper back to the 2-lane road at the north end of the commercial property.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Okay, and you, Mark, you had talked about part of this agreement is also structuring where the town gets money for impact essentially as well.
I'm not sure.
I thought you had said something along that there's some improvements that you guys are making to 37, but then there's also, I guess, investment that you're making towards the town?
Well, if you look at Exhibit E of the SIA agreement, it's page 36. We reiterate 2 obligations we have associated with, it's paragraph 1, Weld County Road 4 and 37, 37 in the Exchange Frontage Road. And then we start to list other fees that have to be paid, but the reason that those 2 paragraphs are in this particular one and why the Weld County Road 37 isn't in it, it's an obligation for us to construct that on Weld County Road 37. It's not a cash in lieu. So in the schedule of costs and fees, we placed both of those in there. And what we did is we had the original cash balance, and we've increased it by ENR, which is like an engineering, I don't know what NR stands for, but it's like, I don't know, what does ENR stand for?
Engineering News Report.
Thank you, yeah, thank you. Yeah, but it's a CPI that they have in the engineering world for infrastructure costs.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's just but you guys are performing that work.
Actually, those 2 are, we pay the town money for that.
Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, I have to scroll back up to my questions, sorry.
That just gives the town, you know, we've also put in, you know, I don't know if you know, but we have, you know, Steve and I have talked about it quite a bit. There's we have this interstate exchange fee that we pay, that's paragraph 4 of that exhibit. Mm-hmm. And that is also, there was this belief in 2004 that we would probably petition and try to build another intersection off of, or not intersection, but exit off of I-76 at County Road 4. Mm-hmm. But the town has additional leeway, and I've always encouraged, I know Steve's been doing this thing, but we pay per unit, but it also can be used for improvements at the frontage road at County Road 2. This is actually a fee that we agreed to
Yep.
at the beginning, and I know Silver Peaks pays it also too.
Okay, that makes sense. One of the things I didn't see is regarding the park, one of the things that we've actually had come up a couple of times is sufficient lighting. We've had a lot of vandalism in the parks that we
Good
have.
idea, man.
And I think a lot of the parks that we currently have are pretty dark. So I guess, do you guys have, and do we require as a town, some sort of lighting to make sure that we can mitigate that versus us having to come back in 5 years from now when you guys are out to have decent lighting?
No, it's really a good point. I'm hoping it's on our plans right now. I don't know about all particularly with that equipment and stuff like that, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Paul Shukas. I'm with PCS Group. We're at 200 Calumet Street. So we've developed construction documents yet, but they haven't been submitted. So we were only, we hadn't provided outdoor lighting. It was just for the only lights that were being provided were per the streetscape lighting. And that was more or less to encourage people to use the park in daytime hours. But what we can do is look at PED lighting, which would be like a, 10-foot kind of pedestrian scale lighting or lit bollards, so that it did still provide a sense of safety. But what we're trying to keep that fine balance of not encouraging folks to use the park during midnight hours, but still have that balance of safety. So we'll look at putting some lit bollards in some key areas.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely would like to see. Talked about fee rates. So one of the other things in here, and I'm having to scroll back and forth, sorry. Well, do I have it here? I do, it's on page 61. In section, I think it's 1.6, it talks about as-built drawings that we're receiving. And I wish David was here. But one of the things that I think the town should be doing is trying to, I guess, kind of get an integrated as-built system for the entire town. And I guess what I'd like to see is,
Someone's trying to break into the meeting.
Power's gonna go out here in a second. I guess I'd like to talk with David Beback a little bit on what we can use as a town to try to start to consolidate, what we get from one developer and another developer. And then that way we can actually maybe put together like a master plan for the town for all these as-built that we get. We've had a lot of issues with some of the water lines that we have, not having adequate as-built and so forth. So one of the things that I know is used quite a bit anymore is Civil 3D. And so I guess, is that precluded from that, or by CAD are we covering that? Because I guess I want more than just 2D. I guess whatever you guys develop, I think the town should get so we can utilize that information in the long term.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We just put CAD because we're not engineers, so.
I think to answer your question, all of our construction plans are prepared in Civil 3D. And whether or not the town has a system where you can implement the as-built into a citywide plan, I don't know, but we can provide the town with Civil 3D documents of the as-built.
Okay, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure that that's something that we can get as part of this agreement. It's not just purely like 2D CAD, but basically anything that you guys develop that we can kind of obtain to try to make sure that we have.
Yeah, typically, we would give you PDFs, and that would be something you can keep specifically for this development. But a lot of times, different towns have GIS systems.
Right.
Where the GIS accepts AutoCAD.
Right.
And then we provide the AutoCAD to you, and then you can just insert it into the rest of the town's master plans for utilities.
But that's all something that we can get out from this agreement. we wouldn't need to modify the agreement to get that.
I can't see why you would, because we're gonna provide that data if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, I'd like to get some additional feedback from David on that to see what he thinks would be best for the town to start to develop kind of an overall as-built. Maybe it is just 2D CAD, but if you guys are using Civil 3D, and I think a lot of them are, maybe that's something we can do as well as looking at GIS. But I think that's all that I had on that part. I don't know why I had timeline on here twice. So you guys have, on this subdivision here, you guys have quite a few different street sections. Right. And I guess, there's a lot of road sections that I'm hoping aren't gonna be used. And I guess my question is if we would be able to remove them from this, I guess, amendment or the addendum to the agreement to take some of those things out. I guess, I mean, we've ran into problems in a lot of the districts where we have parking on a single side on the street. From the looks of it and the way you guys have plotted, we're allowing to have parking on both sides and traffic in both directions. But I guess I'm a little concerned when there's sections that are different than what the town's kind of expecting that are part of this. Even if they don't apply anywhere, I guess if they're part of the document, I think 10 years from now, somebody might try to sneak that in, and
You know, it's kind of, you're hitting on something that we worked on really early on. We were originally proposing street hierarchy on this. I wish we had that exhibit. We did a street hierarchy exhibit for Steve and JVA, et cetera. And we had a street hierarchy similar to filing one where we had wider streets on the longer ones and then narrower ones. And that's, we've had, you know, I'm the president of the Homeowners Association and for Bella Vista, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. You get half the people saying people are driving too fast, and then half the people are saying the roads are too narrow, and bless you, like fire trucks. So it's 6 1/2 a dozen. When we originally put together the PUD, we worked with the town on that standard, but I would suggest that I wouldn't want to do it tonight because I want to get this thing moving, but I think that we'd be totally amenable and put it in the minutes to eliminate that narrower cross-section that Steve and his staff wanted to do, and we could come back to you in a couple months or whatnot and revise that, but I don't want to do it tonight because that would stop our whole project here right now.
No, that's
but I think you raised a good point.
I'd like to see it get modified at some point so it doesn't show that we have single lane or two-lane traffic with single parking on one side versus two. And I guess maybe just purely updating this, because I think there's some other things that look a little bit odd on this one as well with the County Road 6 and 35 on what the widths of that look like.
Oh, yeah, the town just, I mean, you know, the town's gone through, updated its comprehensive plan, et cetera. They've introduced different collector cross-sections. So I think you're bringing up a good point. And, you know, we've already kind of eliminated that street hierarchy situation for filing too. And
that's fine.
Maybe that's something we can do. I'd rather, you know, as I said before, I want to kind of get our project going next week. And,
absolutely.
But I think it's a good idea.
So you can confirm, though, that in this entire filing that there's not a plan to have anything that's parking on single side with maybe a few exceptions that I can't think of?
You know, I can't think of, I mean, you're right, we went through this quite some time ago with staff, but I don't think there's any roads. They're all in roads I can.
50 and 60-foot driveways aren't designed for single load.
Right, so they are all double loaded, right? Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I just wanted to ensure that. And then that's that. So you included something from Terracon, Is that an actual geotech that you guys get? Or and where I'm going with that is, do you know what the plans are for the houses on this, or if they're gonna be basemented, or if they're gonna have to be on piers, or if they're, because I know, like, throughout the town, we have lots of different variations. I think there's houses on piers, there's houses on post-tension slabs. Do you guys have a sense on what this this development's gonna look like from that perspective?
Our geo report for all of filing one didn't require any over-Xing or piers
Okay.
or any of that type of stuff. LGI builds, I'm drawing a blank on it, what do you call them? Yeah, thank you, yeah, thanks, guys. They're doing all crawl spaces out there, so it's a basementless product. The crawl space, what's the depth under, like a 2.5 feet? The depth underneath final grade, the crawl space. Yeah, so they build 4.5-foot crawl spaces. LGI's done, LGI, I'm using their name a lot tonight. We've had geotechnical reports done for filing too.
Yeah.
It's showing that the soils are in good condition, but LGI is actually not I don't know how familiar with home building, but every single lot out there, they got to provide a geotechnical report that'll tell them even after we've done the final grading, they've got to deliver a geotechnical report. My guess is that they're saying there might be a little bit of bad soil in this phase one. Maybe it affects like 10 lots or so.
Okay.
But there's no plan for mass over-Xing for the area.
Okay. And I think, let me just get back to my questions here. So we talked about. I actually think that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, thanks.
Be sure that was only like 20 minutes. And actually, Trustee Doherty addressed most of my questions. I had a lot of questions about, what was it, Civil 3D and CAD 2? That was all on the list here.
Sure it was.
No, I did. I was curious about the
They
commercial.
that in law school? Is that what they
Yeah. I was curious about the commercial and when you were planning to start, so all that got addressed, and my County Road 6 questions were all addressed, so I don't have anything else. Does anyone else?
The commercials, we're gonna grade out the
sorry.
commercial and hopefully they'll sell it out.
So, yeah, sorry, I forgot. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 2018-6, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Loch Louis approving parentheses 1, the Blue Lake subdivision filing number 2 plat, and parentheses 2, the subdivision improvement and water dedication agreement, Blue Lake filing 2, owner improvements between the town and Loch Louis Land 1 LLC with the amendment of section 2 in the new document.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Early? Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lockton?
Yes, and the motion carries. Number 4, the final plat.
Sorry?
Do we have to do number 4, the final plat, or is that part of that?
No, the final plat was approved by Resolution 2018-6.
Okay, so are we?
We're done. I think we're done.
Okay, yay. So action item G, Southwest Weld County Transportation Improvement Forum
I
Agreement.
just want to tell them that, thank you all for working with us for such a long period tonight.
Yeah, and thanks for hanging out until the end of the agenda.
Guys, we need to get signatures tonight.
Yeah, we have all the docs ready, so good lucky night, Mayor.
Yeah. Okay, so action item G, the Transportation Improvement Agreement.
Sure. So Southwest Weld, as Adams County is doing, is also has set up a group of communities that are in DRCOG. And this group is will review the DRCOG sub-regional allocation of funds over this next 4-year transportation improvement plan period, which is a little over $4 million now. I don't remember the exact number. And so this is a way for this group to formally discuss projects and allocate money over time. So this is an agreement that they first sent out a couple drafts. Maureen reviewed this draft and reworked it quite a bit. So this is now their working template that actually I'm meeting tomorrow with them to go over this stuff. So this is also on the agenda. I know the other communities in Southwest Weld have this on their agenda as well. Complaining about Loch Louis revisions.
Good. We're causing problems with Dr. Cog already.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I know that this agreement is so much more simple than the ones that are going on down in Arapahoe
Right.
County and in the southern area, so.
Well, they're getting a lot more
They
money.
can complain, but it is kept fairly simple.
So questions or comments, trustee Morse?
No.
Trustee Strack?
So we stay with Jacob as representative and alternative on this?
Yes, but I think Steve's going to attend the meetings on our behalf.
That what?
Steve will.
Yeah, so primarily it's, so on the voting member of this tip.
Right.
I mean, if the board would not
Oh,
object,
yes.
I would ask that if you could appoint me as the voting member, because I don't know what's, I've been going to these meetings, I meet once a month.
Do you know if that's permitted?
It is. I can clarify that tomorrow, but.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be an elected official.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure about.
I don't
'cause
think the
know-
Dr. Cog rules require that. I know that that's not happening in other jurisdictions.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either way because the big board has to approve anything the subregions do, so. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. But I'd still like to know when those meetings are and if it's okay to attend them.
There's one tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
I can't make that one.
Southwest Well.
All right. But I would like to try to attend some of them. Thank you.
Trustee Early?
Nothing, thank you.
Trustee Ott?
Nothing.
Trustee Dory?
I have nothing.
My only question is, I'm perfectly fine making Steve our voting tip forum member. Are we asking to make Sam the alternate, or what's the plan for?
That's what I would suggest right now.
Okay, that's what I think. Yeah, so great to see this is coming along. I'm totally in favor of it. As our Dr. Cog representative, this is one step to making that process work, so I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve, I don't know, let's go, 1 second, sorry. The Southwest County Transportation Improvement Program Foreman agreement, and having Steve as our voting official and Sam as the alternate.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gordon?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Early? Yes. Trustee Strack?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Mendoza?
Yes, then the motion carries. We bumped fire sprinklers to April 3rd. Fall Festival, I assume, was the mayor, so I'm guessing we're bumping that to the next meeting? Yeah, I assume the mayor was going to be our talker on that, so we will bump discussion item B to the March 20th meeting. That takes us to staff comments. Mr. Staney?
Sure. Just one quick update for the board. We did receive our notice from DOLA that our hearing, we did apply for a DOLA grant for our wastewater treatment plant project for $1 million. So we met with the DOLA a couple times, and their DOLA staff has evaluated and rated our project, which right now has pretty good marks. Our hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, March 14 at 9 a.m. at the Denver Marriott West in Gold, the same location where we had a few years ago, the town hall project. And we're first on the agenda that morning. I may try and go down the afternoon before they start their hearing process, just to see a couple of applicants and how the interaction works this time.
Who all is attending from the town? You and Jeff?
I think it's, the board. I'd like some board members to attend if your schedule allows. I'd like the mayor to attend. But technical staff, I plan to attend and do an initial presentation. JDA would be there as a technical question that we can perhaps separate as to keep in the time as well.
March 14th at what time?
At 9.
At the Marriott West.
Someone's on an outline presentation. are having communications with a number of the stakeholders in County Road 2. We have a meeting last week, and the Walton engineer was there. The traffic engineer that's doing some of the projects in Brighton was also at that meeting. And so we're developing kind of an overall transportation impact form and trying to do some kind of a cost allocation form based on developments and on these traffic reports. And Jeff Ream is taking the lead on helping us finalize that kind of document that we can plug in. We're reviewing and working with developments on County Road 2. We've had some follow-up communications with Brighton staff, and I'll try to get with them again next week. I sent, had a couple of communications with Brighton's street director regarding the bridge deck on County Road 2 and on the obligations for that, and also plugging in the plans for the Farkas property. And their engineer, by the way, who's Bowman Engineering, has submitted construction drawings for that project to the city of Brighton. So I've had JVA and Walton's engineer all talking together with the city of Brighton regarding the final grade and the vertical elevation of that crossing to make sure we get that as low as we can. It helps us with the sidewalk and the grading on the north side, on our side. So that's going on right now. Crestone Peak, we've been, we've had a couple work sessions with them. We had a work session with Matt Servan, with our water engineer and water attorney, which was really productive, and talked about concerns and ways to protect and monitor the town's water resource. So we have some cooperation moving forward with that from Crestone. Lake Henry, I have a meeting scheduled. It's either going to be Friday or next week with another firm that wanted more information on the Lake Henry rebuild and redesign. That's a proceeding we had. And I did attend this Adams County kind of a regional meeting with CDOT, talk about transportation projects to be included in the Dr. Cog TIP plan. And I did raise the question of, and requested that our I-76 intersection in Fernyville should also be included in that planning project. And I can explain the impacts of that and kind of what's going on with that. The importance of County Road 2 to this north boundary line of Adams County. Adams County said they would have some separate meetings, like the sub-regional meetings that Weld County is doing now. And I think at those meetings that we can present our request for things like more localized improvements like rail connections between Lockwood and Brighton, and perhaps some portions of County Road 2 project, depending on how all that ties in together. So I think that unless you have any questions, that's kind of the main points.
Questions or comments? Anyone? Yeah, just.
I think it was a really good thing to do to bring up the I-76 and 2 where they get off. That was a great thing. And then the other thing, just out of curiosity, has Weld County participated at all in 2?
They don't have any stake in it.
They don't have any stake in it. I was just wondering, I mean, it's a county road, and I've been asked by other people if the county had offered any funds or anything, so.
They haven't. It's a road that's in town limits of Lockwood.
All right.
We could make a request as part of this transportation plan, but we're going to be ahead of that funding cycle for this, for the Dr. Cog.
Yeah, I noticed they didn't rush right in or anything, so.
No.
Thank you.
Kind of piggybacking off that, I would imagine they're going to be getting hit up for farther down too at some point in the near future. So, anyone else have anything for Steve? Okay, anything from you, Mr. Rob?
No, thank you.
Yeah, you're ready to be done too. Okay, yeah. Anything? No? Okay, Mayor Trustee comments. Trustee App.
None.
Trustee Morris.
Slightly longer than trustee Otts. I would like to thank Steve and staff for all the work, and town council for all the work that you guys have done and are doing, specifically about Road 2, and then this mountain of work about, I don't know, my brain is fried, but everything else that's going on. You guys are doing a heck of a job, and I appreciate it. So thank you, and keep up the good work.
Trustee Strack.
I guess I'd like to start by, I think we should reach out to Dr. Cog with their boomer bond and ask them to come and evaluate our city for the boomers that are on their way. Also notice that the 76 Commercial Center across the way, and Brighton also, they're really growing. And so I guess my question is, all that sewer is coming to our plant, is it not?
Yes.
And do you know where they're going to cross the highway?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm sure that'll be coming up pretty soon. The only other thing I have, and this is kind of, I'm not sure if I should even talk about this, but as I understand it, that there is really no water behind the Antonov certificates because they were basically just a settlement. And so that being said, I'd be kind of glad to get rid of that deficit, and move on to the future. So, does that make any sense? I've been told that there's no physical water behind those certificates. So that being said, then the town has to produce or make up that water for those certificates. So in the future, that'll all be remedied, and it won't be anything. To me, it's a deficit hanging over the town, so it'll be gone.
I can't, that's a question that I think we can have Jefferson saying to address.
Okay.
In fact, we're planning on an executive session with our water team next meeting.
All right, thank you.
Trustee Early.
Nothing.
Trustee Doherty.
I have just a couple of items. Whatever. I don't know where the hell. Maureen, I think you sent me some information on what we can do with the bond money and investing it. And the way that I read it, it sounded like if it's low risk, and I guess basically low risk, it's something that we could do. And I guess like a bank savings account, I guess I'd still, go ahead.
Well, yeah, so I sent you information on the Public Deposit Protection Act and what the limits are under that act, but if you read the bond documents that are coming forward on the bond, there's even further restrictions as to what you can do with them. You're not gonna be able to do what I think you're about to ask me, can you do?
Sounds good.
It's pretty specific that you've gotta hold it in escrow account, it's gotta be this kind of escrow account. There's all kinds of specifics that are in the bond documents themselves.
Okay. One of the things that came up in the development for tonight was kind of funds in lieu of construction for county road projects or road projects. And especially with some of the stuff that we've been going through with County Road 2 and trying to coordinate with everybody in the world on County Road 2, I actually think it might not be a horrible idea in the future when we have future developers come in to actually do something more like that, where we do funds in lieu of construction. And then that way the town basically takes that money and can do whatever construction they want. And there's nothing that we have to figure out, well, we want to do curbs, so what does that mean to how much money you guys are paying in, because that's not part of your contract. And all this stuff that we're trying to work out with County Road 2 just completely goes away, in my opinion. We can just do whatever we want with the money that we have. And honestly, I think it'd be a lot easier for the town to just do it if we had funds allocated in lieu of construction. And I think that's something that I'd be interested in seeing. Or maybe it's a horrible idea for reasons that I'm not aware of, but I was kind of curious on that. Another item is, I think that the town board should look at, and maybe even at the next agenda, taking a position on the closing or potential closing of County Road 4 at the train tracks out by 85. That has the potential to have huge implications on the town. Because, I mean, if they close that down, 4 is basically not a thoroughfare anymore, and everything's going to go to 2. And that has a huge impact on this town. And so I think that the town board should take a position opposing closing that intersection at those train tracks on County Road 4. I think that has a huge negative for this town.
Let's do it quick.
So,
who would be in favor of putting that as a discussion item on the next agenda? Yeah.
Who's behind this?
County.
The county, yeah.
I'll tell the county to go.
Yeah.
Well,
So
county and CDOT's probably involved in it.
They are.
but the county's the one pushing it, I think. So yeah, let's have that as a discussion item in the next meeting.
And then, I don't know what that question was about either. Never mind. I'm done.
Sure.
I have other things, but I don't remember what they are, so.
Yeah, I actually had a little list, but I'll save most of them for next meeting. I just wanted to echo Trustee Morris's thanks to staff, especially with my 3 a.m. emails this past weekend about the rig that appeared overnight. I really appreciated staff getting on top of that. It helped me get good information out to the public. I know it helped Trustee Strock get good information out, and I think we calmed a lot of waters before things got really crazy. Wanted to let the board know that I reached out to, I think he's now just a regular council member, Councilmember Kirby Wallen and Councilmember Matt Johnston of Brighton, since they are the closest representatives in Brighton to County Road 2, and asked them to kind of poke their staff about making County Road 2 a higher priority and communicating a little better with our staff in order to make sure we can get this project going as soon as we need it to get going. I do need to talk about that tonight because the deadline is like March 16th. So I've talked about the ballot drop box in the past. Weld County is also soliciting input for where their voter service centers and polling places should be for the next election. If we are interested in doing that, and if anyone on this board thinks we should do that, they're soliciting comments. The comments are due March 16th, so go on the clerk and recorder's website, and there's a link to an email address to send your comments that say, hey, consider us. There are some requirements for it. I think we could probably meet most of them. You have to have a secure place and that kind of thing. So if you think we should do that, send your comments in, or let Monica know so she can send your comments in.
I did send an email to Carly, the clerk and recorder, and let her know our interest for having a ballot drop-off box. So
Right.
she said she would submit that as part of their comments.
Cool. I think, the last thing, and I think I'll wait to talk about it more fully till Sam's here next meeting, is finding out more about what the library is talking about offering us, and potentially reaching out on our own and maybe checking with High Plains to see about getting our own facility here rather than having to be part of Hudson and maybe creating our own library board. I don't know what the possibilities of that or how that all works out, but I've heard some people talking about maybe that's what we need to do instead of relying so much on Hudson to provide us services.
Probably have to address the joint, or the library district that we're in.
Yep. Yeah, I think we would have to talk to High Plains to see if they would allow that. But I think it's something worth considering, especially because it seems like our citizens are paying a lot of tax dollars that are flooding a library that's 25 minutes away. So that's all I had. And with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And we are adjourned at 10:30 p.m.
That's a record.
Yeah, that's actually not as bad as I expected.
You'll be here another half an hour signing stuff anyhow.
Yeah, I know.
Hopefully
This
you don't need
is why the mayor skipped tonight. He's sick.
Yeah.
So hopefully you don't need a ride. Yeah, no, I probably need. I actually almost had Aaron drive me off.